Ah, Imagine, Michi wäre jetzt dort, das ist ja so geil. Boah, ich weiß nicht, wie weit die weiteste Dame gekommen ist. Kein Plan. Aber es waren auf jeden Fall einige dort. Es gibt eine richtig gute weibliche TCG-Spielerin aus Deutschland. Die hat, glaube ich, auch mal die Weltmeisterschaften gewonnen. Als sie damals noch jünger war, im Seniors. Die ist broken. Sie heißt, glaube ich, Kaya irgendwas. Lichtenberg oder wieso. Ich Kaya, ja, ne? Luca. Wir sind für Luca-Chat, oder? Oh, was haben die für Teams? Iron Treads ist im Finale. LOL. Ja, wir sind schon für Luke hat Entei. Und der spielt so Balance-Kacke mit Incineroar, Gorthron, das hassen wir. Okay, wir sind für Iron Treads, Entei und Luca. Ist ein Play, oder?
Sitting here with us to crown 3 more world champions. Let's talk about what the champions will be taking home with them, along with the big, beautiful Pikachu trophy. There's a lot of prizes on the line in these matches. $30,000 to the winner of the World Championships in the video game, $20,000 to second place, and the other prizes have already been rewarded as there's only one battle left here. But hey, if you're just tuning in for the first time to the video game championships, let's take a look at the format that these trainers competed in throughout the weekend.
The 2024 Pokemon World Championship event will be showcasing the best Pokemon VG players and matches all weekend. Trainers from around the world are here to compete for the title of World Champion, over $2 million in prizing, and return invitations for next year's Worlds. On Friday, our trainers faced off with Swiss rounds. Trainers who met the required match points advanced to Saturday. Trainers who advanced from Friday continued with Swiss rounds, playing until top cut was determined. Trainers then competed in a single elimination bracket until only the final 2 players remained. Today on Championship Sunday, we crown our champions in each division, and all matches are best of 3. Who will take the title of Pokemon World Champion this weekend? Watch to find out and follow the action at Pokemon.com/play. In just a few moments, we will crown our juniors division champion, but let's see the journey that they took to get to this matchup. And it looks like from looking at top 8 here in the finals, not too difficult in a bunch of 2-0 victories. I was going to say, I mean, talk about a really interesting bracket here. Every single match leading into this finals here from the juniors division was a 2-0 defeat. Kevin Hahn taking down Hideo Uezu and Minato Kodama to find his path to the finals. Right, and then Tatsuomi Shimanuki, Kevin's opponent, taking on Kapona Masuda and Kisuke Furusho in the semi-finals. So, unfortunately, one of these 2 trainers is going to have to take their first and second losses of the top cut. We will get to that match in a moment, though, but this is the final reminder you'll hear from me, probably. If you haven't already, make sure to grab the Sylveon that we are currently distributing
nicht wundern, dass ich zwischendurch so ein bisschen leiser rede. Ich will meine Nachbarn nicht wecken.
Pokemon Violet. All you have to do is connect to the internet, enter in the code SleepTalkWorlds, and you can get your own Sylveon that's modeled after the one that Tomoya Ogawa used last year to win the Senior World Championships in the video game. Yeah, it's always fun to go back and watch the Tomoya celebration as well. It's just so wholesome, so pure, just pure bliss being the world champion. Sylveon, also a potential Pokemon that might have a bit of a resurgence in the upcoming Regulation H format, but that's for after the World Championships. Make sure you do not miss out on that opportunity for a free Sylveon.
Dann könntest du sagen, yo, kann heute ein bisschen lauter werden.
Well, you can also check out some of the incredible music from this weekend at the World Championships over on Spotify. And I have a challenge for all y'all at home. Every single song has a musical motif that reminds you of the region from Pokemon Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
Also falls ihr braucht, könnt ihr Belex auf Twitter anschreiben. Ich sage, es gibt echt viele Leute, die das machen. Das ist schon wirklich sehr viel wert.
Oh, I don't even know the answer on this.
It's all right. Listen to it
Also,
later.
ja, könnt ihr BX mal schreiben, falls ihr Interesse habt.
All weekend. It's actually pretty bad.
Honestly,
yes, Nate and the people who wrote the song and recorded all
Ich
the
weiß nicht, wie
music this
teuer es
weekend
ist.
have
Müsst
been
ihr BX
incredible.
fragen.
So again, please listen to that if you haven't already. That all being said, though, it's been an exciting weekend, and you still have time to showcase all of your incredible memories from this World Championships with that hashtag Pokemon Worlds over on social media, and who knows, you might see your post featured on the stream.
Yeah, that's always one of the most exciting things. Everybody coming together, rooting for their favorite trainers, either from their same country or somebody whose story you've fallen in love with over the course of the weekend. Use that hashtag Pokemon Worlds to let us know who you're going to be rooting for here in these 3 upcoming VG matches.
Für
I actually
Michi.
just used hashtag Pokemon Worlds myself to post our selfie.
King Belex, King_Belex mit X am Ende, dann noch als Doppel-X am Ende.
I took a little bit of a
King_Belex
tour
X.
around the area this morning since we did have a bit of a later call time for once. And I got to walk around the Hilton Hawaiian Village where they're having many of the Pokemon activations.
Ich glaube nicht,
They
dass
had a
ich durch
stage
deren
there where
Haustür
you
einen
could
Read
actually watch the
reinschieben kann.
finals. So shout outs to anybody watching us over at the Hilton right now. Also, they had the Play Lab over there so you could learn how to play the video game, the trading card game, or Pokemon Unite. I think there was a line of people waiting to meet Bear Walker, which was kind of cool.
Oh, strong
and there was
move.
also like a stamp rally, a bunch of photo opportunities. It's really, really cool. So something you can still check out if you're in the area and you're looking for something to do after Championships.
Ich glaube nicht, dass
Sunday.
weniger Leute dort sind. Ich glaube, die Leute laufen gerade einfach durch die Venue. Du kannst ja super viele Dinge dort in der Venue machen. Ich glaube, Leute genießen dort die Venue. Stream meinst du? Ich glaube, gestern war halt noch ein bisschen mehr die Magie da wegen Michi, weißt du? Und morgen ist auch morgen ist auch kein Wochenende, ne? Muss man auch dazu sagen. Gestern war von Samstag auf Sonntag. Darf man nicht vergessen. Ich glaube, das spielt auch nochmal sehr krass mit rein. Können wir darüber reden, dass du 178 Nein magst? Das kannst du nicht sagen. Weil wir haben noch einen Job.
Which are little mud balls that contain microorganisms that actually eat sludge. So we actually, there were a bunch of people who made them and then threw them into the river to help clean it up and make the world a little bit of a better place. So there's a lot going on here this week, and it ain't all just video game battles.
No, yeah, honestly,
Moin James, geht. Ich habe um 9 Probearbeiten und. Ja, check ich.
Pokemon has held prior World Championships in different parts of Hawaii.
Auch mal committen, ne?
Around, maybe it's 3rd time's the charm that we finally get to be here and see the action live in person. But anytime we get to travel the world, it's always a blessing, Gabby, that we can go around the world and tell these stories of all the best trainers, playing in our game.
Indeed, indeed. So while we are waiting
Wie ist die Lage gerade? Wir haben jetzt die letzten 3
VGC
VGC Finals.
I do want to take a moment and maybe recap a little bit of what we've seen from this
Was
tournament
für ein
so
Moment.
far.
Wir sind schon im Verzug.
Just
Hallo,
watching
schau
for the
auf
first
die
time.
Uhr.
So as y'all may know, we are playing in a single restricted format. I think a lot of people were expecting Calyrex Shadow Rider to do very well this weekend, but in the juniors finals at least, there is going to be no Calyrex Shadow Rider to be seen. So quite an interesting development.
Yeah, definitely. The matchup should be pretty fun with Calyrex Ice Rider versus Miraidon, and I think Miraidon has been the clear-cut big story development here in Honolulu. It might be only the 3rd most popular used, at least in the Masters Division, restricted, but I feel like we in all the rounds of Swiss and Top Cut that we had this weekend, Gabby, I feel like Miraidon was on there at least half the time. It was so popular, which means that the top players were performing well with that restricted.
I agree, and I think that it was a very natural metagame development, as well as it felt like while things were getting a little bit more bulkier in preparation for the World Championships, Miraidon just has so much power. You can offset all that additional bulk by just dealing more damage. It's funny, like usually when I leave the World Championships, I always try out the teams that do well so I can get some experience and try out new things. But with Regulation H on the horizon, part of me wants to try out a Miraidon team, but then at the same time, it's like, well, I need to learn Regulation H, though.
But it'll give you preparation for next season.
True.
When, the formats rotate. That's so far down the road. We don't have to worry about that. But I think I might throw my hat in the ring for a couple of Iron Treads matches.
Ich habe so Bock auf Eisenrad, wirklich.
Think about all of the Iron Pokemon that have kind of just been in the shadows of
the
past Paradox Pokémon that we've been using in Scarlet and Violet for the last 2
Was heißt mit Pokémon zusammengearbeitet? Ich habe mal Giveaways mit Pokémon zusammen gemacht und ich wurde schon auf Events von Pokémon eingeladen. Sehe ich das?
Iron Treads. We've seen Iron Jugulus win regionals before. We've seen Iron Valiant is a Pokémon in the Masters Finals, has the potential to become a world champion. The future Paradox Pokémon have showed up big.
So ein Pikachu, was man nur bekommen hat auf einem Dings, auf einem Event von Pokémon.
The magnetic rise, if you will, though I don't think you actually use that move on that Pokemon. But it's really interesting to see people look at the metagame coming into this tournament and trying to build their teams around, okay, what do I expect to see and how are cool ways that I can counter those Pokemon in ways that maybe aren't expected by everybody else if you're facing. At the end of the day, there's only 2 trainers remaining at this point in the competition for each of our age divisions, and if you want to be one of those 2 trainers, you need to give yourself an advantage in any way possible. And having that surprise factor, maybe training your Pokemon to take an attack that normally you wouldn't expect it to.
Hast gar keinen Platz, klaust mir eh schon die Pyramid-Figur.
Yeah, and I think from the perspective of our juniors division match specifically, Gabby, I can't imagine when I was 10 years old, if I was traveling around
Oder die Mio-Figur, die jetzt dazu kam.
To be the best trainer in my division, like
our
2 finalists are, traveling with my family, with my, my
Was war da gestern Michi los?
mom, dad, everybody supporting
Michi
me
hat wirklich gut performt. Am Ende hat es leider nicht ganz gereicht, ne? Aber trotzdem starke Matches. Kranker Typ.
Well, let's go ahead and meet our 2 juniors finalists here and kick off the VG part of this competition.
Geht's jetzt hier los oder wie?
Are you ready to watch some Pokemon video game?
Nee.
Good, because we have some great players for you. We are about to welcome them to the stage. Please put your hands together for your first competitor from the United States, Kevin Hahn.
Oh, was ist Kevin nicht der alles gewinnt diese Season? Das ist Kevin! Oh, der hat doch NAIC und EUIC gewonnen. Der ist richtig krank, als ob der in den Finals ist. Oh, der ist crazy. Der ist wirklich crazy. Oh, wie süß er ist mit seinem Seeper. Oh. Warte, das ist der Eisenradspieler.
Alright, just one question for both of you first, Kevin. In order to come out on top in this
Ja, das Ding ist, Kevin ist, das ist die letzte Saison, in der Kevin Juniors spielen darf. Wir gehen gleich in die Wette rein, ja. Ja, gutes Mikro.
Staying calm, not getting tilted. Great advice for yourself. Good job, Kevin. All right. And same question for you. What do you need to do in order to win this match? Go ahead and use it.
そうですね。この試合で、
Ja, das geht
優勝す
wenigstens.
るために何が一番重要なんですか。
はい。EA とか
Oh, der ist ja so
ポケモンたちをうまく
süß.
使いこなすことが重要だと思います。
Most important thing is that he uses his Pokemon well.
That's a great advice as well. All right, let's hear it for our 2 competitors. We cannot wait to watch you play. Thanks so much. Go ahead and take your seats. Casters, let's get this match started.
Thank you very much, Anna. This should be a really fun start to the VG section of the
Wie gesagt, Kevin hat fast alles gewonnen diese Saison. Der ist crazy, der Typ. Aber der ist auch schon 25 oder so.
And what's so exciting for me is that both these juniors are here with their families. Tatsunomi actually competed alongside of his brother yesterday in the juniors division. Kevin and his brother
Kevin
Chris
ist sein Elternteil,
prepared
der ist
for
schon
the
18.
tournament together last night. Chris also a regional
derbe.
champion, so we might have
Aber seine letzte
and
Season
an
als Junior.
international champion. So really, we might have a bit of a new Pokemon family rising here from both sides of the field.
Yeah, it was really
Sein
great
Bruder war auch
to
Weltmeister.
talk to both these trainers backstage before, seeing how confident they were, seeing how excited they were, and seeing how excited their family was backstage supporting them. But the first thing I gotta say out here, Gabby, with Kevin Hahn in particular. particular.
Kevin hat eigenen
It's
Muni-Zettel
potentially
geschrieben.
the
So.
start of a huge run. We'll get into the accomplishments as we get prepared. But one of the big accomplishments is Kevin Hahn normally routinely takes down Masters Divisions players at our locals.
Jo, das riesige Filori da unten.
So I can't claim him, but he lives close enough to Jersey to participate at our NJ locals. I've definitely taken an L to him, not gonna lie. World's qualified players I was hanging out with this weekend from Tri-State, they're like, oh yeah, I've lost to Kevin too. So here at his young age in the juniors division, he's beating Masters players. It shows how impressive he is.
Let's take a look at the Pokemon matchup here between both of these trainers, as Kevin is running Calyrex Ice Rider, which is the same restricted he won the North American International Championships with.
Oh, guck mal, er zeigt ihm gerade das Seepferd, Tatsuomi. Er sagt so zu ihm, guck mal, mein Seepferd ist ja nicht süß. Und Kevin, haha, ja, ich werde dich zerstören, weil ich bin 4 Köpfe größer als du. Und Tatsuomi, oh, guck mal, mein Seepferd. Baby, mag mal.
What a crazy Pokemon to see on a unique team like this.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think even Michael Kelch is going to be using Iron Treads. We actually saw it multiple times on stream this weekend, and it definitely makes sense for a metagame counter. That steel ground typing, also a really fast Pokemon, has a lot of utility.
Hat er gerade gesagt, Michi hat Iron Treads genutzt?
Accomplishments, Kevin Hahn, the reigning EUIC and NAIC champion this season. So that would be quite the trifecta if he can cap the season with the world.
Egal,
Not only that, he is a 7-time regional champion. We could only fit one on the graphic, so he was asked to pick his favorite regional championship.
Samazenta.
In 2023, because that was the same one that his older brother won in the seniors division. So they had a nice family win there. Kevin looking to continue winning here on an incredible streak. I mean, winning the European and the North American International Championships back-to-back
UIC und NAIC gewonnen, Kevin. Ist crazy.
His opponent, though, Tatsuomi, was able to win a round 1 bye in this competition by placing top 4 at the Japan Championships earlier on the season. But we'll have to face down a very formidable opponent. Once again, Calyrex Ice Rider pretty expected on this team.
Ach
but
du
with
Scheiße.
the other Pokemon, Kevin's giving himself a lot of options. He can respond to really any strategy thrown at him.
Fallende Soldier.
And if you're a viewer who only shows up for Championship Sunday, you should be familiar with some of Kevin Hahn's strategies, as he has pretty much been able to iterate upon his team over the last couple of months of these similar Pokemon that he's used to win other international events like the Raging Bolt, the same choice Scarf or Shifu with coaching as well. He's definitely using just really strong core Pokemon in the metagame. There is that fun fact, EUIC and NAIC
Ja, ich bin gerade auf der Maya, aber auch Nachtschicht.
His opponent, Tatsuomi, is running a team that was inspired very directly by Michael Kelch's win at the Stockholm Regional Championships earlier on this year. Iron Treads is certainly a very unique adaptation, like we were talking about earlier, but his Tornadus has a couple of very unique tech moves in Sunny Day and Rain Dance, as you can see on the screen now. The Chi-Yu with the choice specs being able to deal a huge amount of damage.
Rillaboom
with the Salt Vest.
Kevin, starker
Gegner. This team plays very similarly in this matchup compared to what we saw yesterday when we saw Calyrex Ice Rider facing off against the Zamazenta. But I'm sure the Tornadus and the Iron Treads
Der kleine Junge braucht noch so ein paar Kissen,
Pokemon for Tatsuomi,
damit er den Screen sieht. Der muss so ein bisschen höher sitzen.
In Swiss.
And I do think on Tatsuomi's end, the Zamazenta is really in a premier position. This is what you do when you're only allowed
Megahorn ist Iron Treads. Zero Highest Power Megahorn.
Of the team to fill out the cores, making Zamazenta as well-rounded of a Pokemon as it can be. It's definitely going to be so important in this finals matchup. But here he has his brother, as you mentioned, also plays the game at 29th at the World Championship last year. So two family pedigrees here, championship pedigrees from both trainers.
And I do want to shout out, we asked Tatsuomi what his favorite Pokemon was, and he said Horsey. And there's actually a Horsey there on stage cheering him on, which is super exciting. But these trainers are getting into team preview. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the options here that both these trainers have. Like I just mentioned from Tatsuomi, I'm not personally anticipating anticipating seeing that Tornadus or the Iron Treads in turn 1, game 1 of this juniors finals. So I would not be surprised to see him go with a very safe lead of the Zamazenta and the Rillaboom to give himself options to respond to Kevin's team, which again, there's so many good Pokemon on their team. There's so many different ways he could approach that matchup. I think it's very difficult to say, this is the first game I'm playing against this opponent. I don't know how he's going to approach this. I should give myself options.
Right, for sure. And I think on Kevin's end, it's going to be so important to make
Kevin
sure
schreibt nebenbei seine Bachelorarbeit, weil er ist schon 25.
Zamazenta is not comfortable. We see so many times on stream, if a Zamazenta can sit on the stage, click Terra Dragon, click Body Press every turn, and really not be threatened whatsoever from getting knocked out, it just does too much damage over time. So Kevin is going to need to focus on Pokemon that will threaten the Zamazenta.
He will, and he has several options for that, but we'll just have to take a look for ourselves to see what both these trainers locked into as this game is ready to go.
All right,
okay, let's go.
It is time to start the Juniors Finals here at the Pokemon World Championships in Honolulu.
Das ist das einzige Mal, dass es einen Custom Battle im Background gibt.
For the lead in Game 1, Kevin Hans and Tatsuomi Shimanuki with Zamazenta Rillaboom with the spectator mode too.
I know, it's always so exciting to see
es gibt sogar einen Spectator Mode.
How incredible the crowd looks in the game for these World Finals. But let's go ahead and talk about the board state here,
ganz falsch.
Incineroar is a great supporting option for the Calyrex, but is going to be a bit slower typically than the opposing Rillaboom. So you have to be very careful for fake out on both sides of the field. My big question for Kevin is he considering Trick Room in this matchup or not? Because Calyrex Ice Rider is going to be slower than both of the Pokemon on Tatsuomi's side of the field. Does seem like a great opportunity here to try and use it either this turn or next turn. As of right now, the Zamazenta does not have enough attack power to take it out in one hit.
Yeah, I think the Trick Room really does make a lot of sense, Gabby, because looking at Tatsuomi's team, Zamazenta, fastest thing out of all the Pokemon. Choice Scarf on the GU as well. The Tornadus is also super fast. Iron Tread's an incredibly fast Pokemon that Kevin Han might be able to twist the dimensions and switch up the narrative. But for now, it will be Terra Ghost Incineroar.
Hallo.
On the first turn here, Kevin using Terra right away. Tatsuomi protecting the Zamazenta, doesn't want to take any damage. Kevin
ich bin einfach bei den Worlds.
With a protect of his own on the Ice Rider. Rillaboom goes to the fake out, but it's into the protect on Calyrex, so Kevin doesn't take any damage this turn. And now it's time for a parting shot, but it goes towards the protect, so really smart, safe play from Tatsuomi.
A lot of times when you see Terra Ghost on an
oder
Incineroar, you assume that it is there to stop fake out. Once you are a ghost type Pokemon, normal type attacks don't work. But fighting type attacks don't work either. And in the Zamazenta matchup in particular, if you can afford to use the terrestrialization on your Incineroar, you essentially set up a Pokemon that cannot take damage from Zamazenta. And what's better than not taking damage? Reducing the damage it can do as well. And just as you pointed out, Joe Brown, this Incineroar knows Will-O-Wisp, and that would be such an amazing move for Kevin in this turn.
Right onto either of Tatsuomi's Pokemon here that are both physical attackers. Yes, Body Press uses the defense stat instead of your attack stat, but it would still work pretty well. Here's the double target with the grassy terrain boost from the Woodhammer. It's not enough to take out Calyrex Ice Rider, one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the format. Will-O-Wisp connecting onto Tatsuomi's Zamazenta, so now it is burned. It will be doing half of the damage from its attacks. Trick Room successfully going up. Now for the next 4 turns on Kevin's end with these Twisted Dimensions, these slower Pokemon will move first, and that's bad news for Tatsuomi.
It is bad news for Tatsuomi, but he does still have some plays he can make here. While the Rillaboom is at full health, there is a chance prior to any attack boost on that Calyrex that it can survive the Glacial Lance, assuming there's still a partner standing next to it to reduce the damage. So if Tatsuomi has trained his Rillaboom to survive that attack, he can fire off another Woodhammer into that Calyrex. We saw that it didn't do as much damage as one would assume thanks to the Intimidate from that Incineroar, but it's still going to put it within knockout range of another attack, which is exactly why Kevin decides to keep it safe and switch it out.
Yeah, that Calyrex will swap into Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt, one of the Pokemon that has taken competitive Pokemon by storm over the last half year, ever since it became legal through the DLC. A very offensive Pokemon. The wide guard from Zamazenta will be wasted since the Calyrex swapped off the field. Anyway, parting shot landing into this Rillaboom, lowering its attack and special attack by 1 stage. But of course, if it goes for the Woodhammer into this resisted Raging Bolt on the other end, it's still going to be a solid defensive swap for Kevin.
It is, and it also gives him the opportunity to send that Calyrex right back out onto the field once the damage has been lowered even further. U-turn targeting down that Raging Bolt also means that Calyrex doesn't take any damage from that switch, essentially swapping spots so it could dodge the U-turn.
Right, and now Tatsuomi's going to have to reveal his 3rd Pokemon in this game. What is one of those Pokemon in the back that are all generally speedy, say, except for Raging Bolt. The other 3 are pretty fast Pokemon that would not be working quickly under Trick Room.
Exactly. And I do want to take a moment to talk about the overall positioning of Kevin in this Trick Room right now as he sends in the Iron Treads.
Iron Treads is essentially anti-Miraidon, anti-Raging Bolt. They're both electric dragon types. You're immune to electric as a ground type, and you resist dragon as a steel type. So Tatsuomi doesn't care if it's going to be moving slower under Trick Room. He knows he's hardly going to take any damage from either Glacial Lance or a Draco Meteor.
And unfortunately for Kevin, I think he has to make a very defensive play here, either by switching out one of these Pokemon or by letting them get KO'd this turn, most likely from an attack from that Iron Treads, and then send in your Incineroar the next turn to threaten it with Intimidate, to threaten it with a Will-O-Wisp. It's a very unique Pokemon that I don't think he's encountered throughout his run here at the World Championship. So let's see how he's going to plan a strategy around the huge threat that it brings.
And you have to wonder what Tatsuomi's strategy is on which
Guck mal, die haben sogar so Glowing Sticks in der Hand.
In game 1, as Zamazenta's had some damage mitigation from the burn, might not be as valuable. You turn into a dragon type, and you'll be very weak to both of Kevin's Pokemon. So maybe it's up to this Iron Treads or Rillaboom later on in this game 1 to terrestrialize and change the dynamic. It will be just to protect the
Spectator Mode. Okay, Tatsuomi, strong.
Iron Treads protecting. So if Zamazenta went for the protect, it wouldn't work. But of course,
nee, das gibt schon, also den Spectator Mode, der ist auch
information all around for these trainers. In addition, by double protecting there, Kevin ensures that he can target down attacks into that Iron Treads when it doesn't have protect available.
Schwert und Schild hatten wir auch einen Spectator-Mode, aber nur für lokale Battles.
Double protecting throughout your own Trick Room, but I think given the Pokemon on the field, more information is better. You can see how your opponent wants to use that Iron Treads, and then you can, again, adjust to the game plan at hand.
It is 2 steel types on the other end facing down Kevin's Raging Bolt. So these Draco Meteors, even if they are boosted from the booster energy increasing its special attack stat, would still be resisted. Tatsuomi making a big call on this turn to swap that Iron Tread back out into the Rillaboom. High horsepower into the ground type is now resisted, so a really smart call. But the Draco connects. It hits Rillaboom, hangs on in the red. The double target does not get the KO, and now Body Press will hit into the Calyrex, bringing it a little bit lower.
There is one more turn of Trick Room remaining now, and the Rillaboom has access to fake out once again to flinch either of the Pokemon on Kevin's side of the field. So even though Tatsuomi's own Zamazenta fell short of doing any significant damage that turn, it is in such a prime position here. You can wide guard any attempts at Glacial Lance to deny Calyrex the chilling Nay boost from knocking out the Rillaboom. You can go ahead and target down another attack to either of the Pokemon on the opposing side of the field if Rillaboom opts to go for Fake Out. Tatsuomi is almost guaranteed to make it through this Trick Room relatively unharmed.
Calyrex will swap out in this position, so a little bit worried about a Fake Out going into that slot. And now the Incineroar with the Terra Ghost, it would be immune to the Fake Out if that's what Rillaboom wants to go for. But Tatsuomi had a really smart play the previous turn. Can he get another advantage here on the last turn of Trick Room? Kevin revealing Urshifu Rapid Strength and showing off all 4 Pokemon. And smartly does not click the Fake Out. Instead, uses that momentum to U-turn out.
One strategy that has been popular in Pokemon for
That's strong
almost an
update.
eternity at this point is this idea that
Und
as
jetzt
long
kommt
as
Gio
you can
nämlich.
keep
So ein
switching
Ding
your
ist es nämlich.
Pokemon in and out on the field, you can reposition, you can respond to whatever threats
wünschte,
your
ich würde die
opponent
Items
brings.
sehen, ne?
And with the reveal of
Guter
that
Damage.
Chi-Yu from Tatsuomi, there
Ich will
is
wissen, ob
so
der Tarnumhang
much damage
trägt, das
potential
Yu-Gi-Oh! oder
from
nicht.
him on the field right now. Kevin is almost forced
Der
to
wird wahrscheinlich
target down
Cover Close
that
sein, oder?
Pokemon with his own Urshifu, because if you leave it unchecked, it can now do super effective damage to the Incineroar and can
natürlich.
also threaten huge damage onto the opposing Calyrex Ice Rider with a fire attack.
Right, and the Urshifu is so crucial right now for Kevin because the Choice Scarf is allowing it to outspeed Chi-Yu on the other end, who's holding the Choice
Das sieht so
Specs
cool aus im
item.
Background.
So that would be one thing that definitely threatens Tatsuomi's Chi-Yu from trying to click and attack this turn. Kevin instead will swap out.
Raging Bolt will take the field once again, and we do get a
Specs ist Gio,
terastallization
okay.
from Tatsuomi. It is the Chi
Aber Terra Ghost, ne? Ja.
Terradastalizing into the Ghost type.
So 2 Ghost Terras here in game 1. A very spooky start to our juniors finals. Surging Strikes now means
stark.
it is just a neutral hit, no longer super effective. So these 3 critical hits
Urshifu
are
Scarf.
not going to be enough to take out the Chi-Yu on this turn. Tatsuomi really playing smartly in game 1. Body press follow-up
Big.
into the Urshifu, not enough.
And a Dark Pulse now from that Chi-Yu into
Wow.
the Raging Bolt. Almost
Kranker Damage.
takes it out in a single hit, and that is the power of the combination
Timer
of
ist
Choice
die
Specs
Click-Time,
and the
die haben.
Beads
Ist Scarf,
of
okay.
Ruin ability. It means your special
Und
attacks
Zamazenta
do
Bolt hat
so
wirklich
much
echt noch ultra
damage.
viel.
Even though Chi-Yu locked into a single target attack, this Chi-Yu, if given the opportunity to attack, could easily KO the Urshifu or this Raging Bolt. Now, Kevin does have options to get around the Chi-Yu.
Kevin
The
könnte-
Urshifu is still naturally faster, and we did see that another Surging Strikes
Chi-Yu
would be enough to
Rillaboom
lock in that
opfern und
KO.
mit Urshifu
But the
killen.
Raging Bolt also has access to a
Zamazenta.
priority attack in Thunderclap.
Oh.
So if Kevin assumes the Chi-Yu will be attacking again this turn, you can KO it first.
Incineroar swaps into
Aber
the
das hat
Urshifu slot.
Tatsuomi, oder?
Urshifu was hit by a body press the last 2 consecutive turns. So now Kevin anticipating if
hat er
body
doch,
press
oder?
goes into that slot, now you will be immune to it as a ghost type.
Steht jetzt hier
Tatsuomi
Rilla rein, ne?
being on the
Ja.
advantage instead of clicking a Dark Pulse yet again will swap into the Rillaboom, resetting up the grassy terrain, helping his Zamazenta
Und jetzt kommt Body
recover
Press
just a little
in
bit of
den
HP
Incineroar-Slot, ne?
every single
Oh
turn.
mein
But
Gott,
the body
nein,
press
never
goes
mind.
towards Raging Bolt for the
Oh mein Gott,
knockout.
hä, wie
He knew
gut.
that it
What
was
the fuck?
too risky to target the
Hä?
Urshifu slot and gets rewarded
Kranke
KOing
Scheiße.
Raging Bolt.
Even if Raging
Gaming
Bolt
oder wie?
opted to Thunderclap that Zamazenta so it could attack before being knocked out, Zamazenta has so much health it wouldn't have mattered.
unterschätzt meinen
Tatsuomi
Bro
said
nicht.
this when we were
Diese
talking to him before the game. He loves
Saber-Power.
bulky Pokemon. He loves having the
Sag mal, ist er
ability
der
to
Beste?
stay on the field and take
Gelernt
all
von
of
Michi.
these hits. And even though this Zamazenta was weakened by an Intimidate, was weakened by a burn, it is still doing enough damage thanks to the time it
Calyrex
has
was
to make a
protecting.
huge difference in his game plan.
Now this Calyrex is already down to about a third of its HP. Sure, the Incineroar has effectively full HP, but there's no Trick Room up. Your Restricted is very close to being knocked out. Losing Raging Bolt, who does so much damage on Kevin's end. It's such a difficult position here in game 1.
It is. That all being said, though, with the combination of Urshifu and Calyrex still available at this moment in time, I think Kevin has a little bit of options
Nein,
here.
Waver,
This
was?
Urshifu has the Choice Scarf, like we were talking about earlier,
Was?
but it also has Coaching, which means there's a way to power up this
Was?
Calyrex. One thing he could consider doing here after a turn of Fake Out and maybe even setting up Trick Room again is to
Kranke
try to
Scheiße.
power up this Calyrex so it can make a bigger difference in this matchup.
Rillaboom just clicking U-turn almost as if it's choice locked into it, but
Oh
it's not.
my God,
Consistently, Rillaboom swaps onto the field as a defensive pivot, and then he'll U-turn into something else in the back, revealing the Iron Treads yet again.
Das ist
It's
mir
been a
leid,
while, but it looks
Weiß, wie
pretty
du dich
poised right now until
Trick
Calyrex
Room.
twists the dimensions. That means Kevin got to bring his Calyrex on the field and set Trick Room up for a second time in game
Zamazenta
1.
juckt mich gar nicht.
It is a second time, but again, there's so much damage on the field, and I'm not sure if Kevin can match that damage from Tatsuomi. Calyrex Ice Rider did manage to twist the dimensions in its favor, which means it will be able to attack first. But like you were saying, Joe, this Iron
Ja, aber
Treads
dann jetzt
will be
Protect
able
mit
to
Iron
take a hit
Treads.
from it quite comfortably. It's most likely
Paradox
going to
Pokémon
need
haben
2
wahrscheinlich, ja.
hits from
Nicht
high
alle.
horsepower or glacial
Aber
lance to
fast alle.
secure that KO. Meanwhile, Zamazenta is still free to try and wide guard
Ja,
if you want to
war
stop
klar.
this Calyrex from attacking, or you can continue to use those body pressures to just
Nee, der
wear
muss
down
schon
the
protecten.
HP of your opponent.
Well, Kevin has protected
Was war denn
his
mit
Calyrex
Zamazenta?
Ice Rider on the turn. Knockoff goes into that protect. Tatsuomi is just
Body
making
press
so
into
many
Calyrex
great
wahrscheinlich, oder?
decisions turn after
Ja.
turn in game
Okay.
one. The body press will hit Calyrex's protect, so no damage really from anybody. Just a little bit of HP recovery thanks to the grassy terrain.
Tatsumi.
While the HP recovery is nice, though, it's not
Zamazenta
necessarily
einfach
going
fast
to
wieder voll.
help even out the Pokemon count here. You have to start looking at how Kevin can go on
Ja,
the
Incineroar kann
offense
später
in this
Gio killen.
matchup. Iron Treads is certainly the bigger enemy here, as with
Urshifu muss
grassy
weg, der
terrain
ist ein Problem.
active on the field, you can utilize Steel Roller. It's a steel type attack,
Den
it
Rest
has a
macht
very
Gio.
high base power, but it only works when there's terrain on the field. It'll also remove the terrain by using that move. Now, you might look at that Zamazenta and think, well, he could appreciate some healing. You know, you're going to be taking damage over time thanks to the burn. However, I think in this scenario, you don't necessarily
Boah, ich
mind
glaube, der
losing your
double-targetet
terrain
hier
because it's
jetzt
going to
einfach
stop your opponent's Pokemon from
Iron
recovering
Treads,
as
ja.
well. But it looks like Iron Treads is just content to keep waiting out this Trick Room.
Ah, jetzt schmeißt der
really
Rillaboom
just
weg.
being a more of a
Muss ja
warning
irgendwann
on
passieren.
Tatsuomi's end, like, hey, eventually I'm gonna click the hit here.
Oh, ein HP.
Hangs on with 1 HP, forcing the knockoff to go into that slot. Double target.
Ist okay, nimmt man.
Finally, Rillaboom goes down with what will be 1 turn of grassy terrain remaining, but what a crucial
okay, it's chip
survival
damage.
from the Rillaboom there. The hit from body press will bring Calyrex down low, but just because of that burn from so many turns ago, Gabby, it's really not doing enough damage.
3 Damage haben oder
That's
nicht
very
haben, die
common
jetzt am Ende werden
strategy
die
when
wichtig.
facing
Pass
off
auf.
against Zamazenta as well. You lock in the Ghost type Terastallization on your Incineroar,
Ja, jetzt
so
will
it'll
er wieder
really struggle to
Protect.
deal damage. You put a burn onto that Zamazenta, so it will struggle to deal damage to everything else on your team, and you kind of wait it out. That being said, though, with the juxtaposition of the Iron Treads right next to it,
Oh,
all you have
ein
to do
Protect auch
this
mit
turn is
Zamazenta.
double protect, Trick Room ends, and
Sehr
now
gut.
you're able to go on the
Weil ich
offense and
glaube,
really
Kevin
threaten some
double-targetet
huge
jetzt
damage.
Zamazenta.
Tatsuomi doing exactly what you mentioned, the double protect, so he doesn't take any damage from Kevin's
Nee, er geht nicht
super
auf Iron
powerful
Treads.
Pokemon on his side. That high horsepower
Ich hab das
goes into
Gefühl,
Iron Head's protect, as well as Incineroar's
Kevin
knockoff
greift immer
there.
das
So
vor
you
sich
can
an,
see that's
was dort
multiple
steht. Der
turns in a
triggert
row,
gar
or
nichts.
of the last times
Und ich
that
glaube,
Iron
damit
has been
gewinnt man
on
bei
the
den
field,
Juniors
that he has
meistens,
been
weil die sind
double targeting
ungeduldig.
that slot because it is such
Aber
a massive
nicht mit
threat.
Tatsuomi.
It is,
Tatsuomi
and
ist
now
ein
that
Gamer.
the Twisted Dimensions have returned to normal as well, the Iron Treads is going to be one of the fastest Pokemon on the field. So if Kevin
muss double
wants to
protect
avoid
mit Iron
damage
Treads.
this turn, you can certainly protect for a turn, but that's not going to necessarily help you navigate the situation any better. I think you have to go on the offense. Just try and land as much damage into
muss
that
double
Iron
protecten.
Treads as possible, and then
Tatsuomi
also
sitzt so
to
da.
start setting things up so that
Er will
your
den Double
Choice Scarf
Protect.
Rillaboom in the back,
Er will
or
ihn.
excuse me, Choice Scarf or Shifu in the back of your party can deal some big damage.
There's the high horsepower.
Whoa.
It's super effective, but it's not enough. He hangs on. Incineroar going
Na gut,
first
dann weiß ich
because
nicht,
of
wofür er
Trick Room.
gebetet
Double
hat.
target means Iron Treads. All of those turns of positioning meant it didn't get any attacks off. The Life Four being knocked off.
Vielleicht war
as
das aber
well.
auch-
Here's the body press, but because of the prior
Vielleicht
health
wollte er ihn,
recovery from the
dingsen,
grassy
wisst
terrain
ihr?
turns,
So
Calyrex hangs
verunsichern.
through the hit.
And now Trick Room has ended.
Das könnte echt sein, oder?
And
Aber Trick Room
now
has
it's
ended.
just the Zamazenta
Jetzt tötet er mit
and
Yu-Yu ja
the
Incineroar.
GU standing on the field for
Und mit
Kevin,
Zamazenta,
or for Tatsuomi. Kevin still has a full
guck mal, der
health
drückt jetzt
Incineroar,
Dark
but
Pulse
it
in
is going to be
Incineroar
taking super
und Body
effective
Press in
damage
den
from
Calyrex
the
Slot
GU's
und dann
Dark
sterben
type
ja
attacks.
safe 2
And there, of course,
Pokémon.
is that Zamazenta as well still for Tatsuomi. That being said, though, the victory conditions for Kevin are starting to
das
look
gut.
good. All you have to do is take out that
Aber Protects sind
GU,
egal.
and the Zamazenta is just going to struggle to deal damage.
There's 3 minutes left here in this
Bam,
game.
gleich
One,
vorbei.
that is how long
Jetzt drückt der Dark Pulse in den
and back and
Incineroar
forth
Slot und
this
tötet
battle
ihn.
between these juniors has gone. Dark Pulse though into the Ghost inside.
Ja,
the
so.
one hit. The one-hit KO.
Jetzt
Choice
kommt
Specs
Urshifu.
beats a ruin, boosted damage from this
Und Zamazenta
Pokemon is
killt
just so difficult. The Terra
Calyrex.
Ghost that helped Kevin on turn
Urshifu
one is
killt
costing him
Yu-Yu
late in the game.
und dann gewinnt Zamazenta
That
gegen
Terra
Urshifu.
Ghost is not as safe to
Oder
make
nicht?
if there is a Pokemon like
Es
Chi-Yu in
müsste
the
doch
back.
1-0
So
für
that is an
Tatsuomi sein.
adjustment that Kevin will have to make going into Game 2 of this matchup. For now, you certainly can utilize your Urshifu to outspeed and
Außer
knock
Calyrex
out
kriegt
that
den Double
Chi-Yu
Protect.
before it uses
Doch,
something
auch
like
mit Burn, glaub
Dark
ich.
Pulse to knock out your own
Wenn
Calyrex
Calyrex den
Ice
Double
Rider.
Protect
But
bekommt,
it's at such low health, there is no more grassy terrain recovery around. Another body press honestly
sollte okay
should do
sein.
it.
There is the surging
Body
strikes
Press
from
killt Calyrex.
Urshifu, knocking out this Terra Ghost Chi-Yu, who did so much work for
Ich glaube, dass Zamazenta eben genug Damage gemacht hat, ja. Ist eh gleich vorbei. Ja, jetzt killt der Calyrex. Und jetzt müsste Zamazenta gegen Urshifu gewinnen. Komm schon. Komm schon. Wenn die Zamazenta jetzt gewinnt, ne? Er hätte safe Double Protect gehen müssen. War Quatsch, dass es nicht gemacht hat. Den lebt er? Komm schon. Komm schon. Komm schon. Komm schon, Sama. Wir sind bei dir, Tatsumi. Wir sind bei dir. Wir sind bei dir, Tatsumi. Gaming. Gaming.
Bulky Pokemon indeed. That Zamazenta was incredible. It showed up on the field, turn 1, and it didn't leave, even though it was burned, even though it was intimidated. That Pokemon just was not afraid of anything that Kevin had to bring into that battle. And the way that Tatsuomi almost tricked Kevin into terastalizing that Incineroar to handle the Zamazenta matchup better, only to bring the Chi-Yu was such an amazing call in that game.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Kevin is going to be prepared for.
Ich muss kurz hier rüber. Ich bin jetzt der hier. Ich will nicht mehr Kevin sein. Ich will Tatsuomi sein.
Right away on turn 1, because you don't know what Tatsuomi's plan is going to be, especially after you have so much success of burning Zamazenta, really mitigating so much of the damage that Tatsuomi's restricted Pokemon can provide to your side of the field. I feel like maybe you saving your terastallization flexibility just like he did could be the key in game 2.
It could be the key in game 2 as well. I also think when we're talking about adjustments, you have to just look at how heavily board positioning came into play between both of these trainers. We saw that Rillaboom swap in twice for Tatsuomi to take a ground type attack for the Iron Treads. We also saw just how Kevin zoned in on that Iron Treads turn after turn in the Twisted Dimensions. I think that's something that Tatsuomi can continue to use to his advantage. Maybe showcase that Iron Treads early on, make sure that Kevin's thinking about it, and then use that to influence how the board is going to progress throughout game 2.
I'm also really wondering, I don't believe it would have mattered, but I think that Rillaboom hang-on was so crucial because that knockoff would have targeted Zamazenta. Yes, it is a resisted attack, so it wouldn't do too much damage, but it's not like Zamazenta ended the game with too much hit points remaining
also for real, der hat richtig gute Plays gezündet. Aber weiß nicht, was Kevin da am Ende gepokert hat. Dass er da nicht für Double Protect gegangen ist, war ja ganz großer Käse.
It was, and I really love how Rillaboom has become this support titan in the Regulation G. Honestly, it seems like Rillaboom is more useful than Incineroar in a format, which is something I never thought I would say coming into this weekend. Just because being able to provide flinch support, being able to pivot and deal some damage, and also to be able to heal up your partners is so huge. You see it mattering a lot more in matchups against Pokemon like Miraidon, where the terrain adds another level of strategy you need to manage throughout everything, but still, overall, a very powerful Pokemon, giving Zamazenta that support and really taking all those hits for the Iron Treads.
What a back and forth game 1 that was, really going down to the wire and down to the timer almost because of how long the decisions took every turn. You had so many U-turn swaps and many other decisions that they made on, like so many double protects as well. Remember, we went through 2.
Wenn das Game war fast fertig ist, haben wir nicht einmal
It does, and
gestern bei den
I also
Masters
noticed
gesehen.
as well that Kevin was doing a fantastic job throughout that matchup of managing when he needed to use Trick Room to the advantage of the Calyrex Ice Rider, and when he needed to double protect to stall out his own Trick Room so that he can enable the other Pokemon on his team. It just shows how comfortable he is with this restricted Pokemon, which makes sense. He was on the stage at New Orleans, and he was able to win thanks to the help of Calyrex Ice Rider.
And this is not the first time Kevin Hahn has had his back against the wall here in Honolulu. Kevin started Swiss 1 and 2 and was very stressed, but his brother Chris gave him the confidence he needed to continue on through through the day, winning those next 5 rounds, winning his top cut matches 2-0, as we mentioned earlier. So if Kevin is, of any of the juniors trainers here in Honolulu, Kevin's certainly one of them that can make a comeback.
For sure, and also all of that experience as well, winning multiple regionals titles, multiple international titles. Tatsuomi, this is really his breakout performance at a competition. He got top 4 at the Japan Championship Series this year, but really prior to that, he had no other accomplishments, just because I think there's really only a couple of opportunities that people from that region have. But still, this could be his opportunity to write his name in the stars, along with all of our other world champions this weekend, as we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 2.
Michi und sein Gegner.
One game away from becoming the juniors division world champion here in Honolulu, but Kevin Hahn, of course, might have something to say about that. It will be Incineroar and Calyrex Ice Rider as the lead for Kevin in game 2, compared to Zamazenta Chiyu for Tatsuomi.
A big adjustment here from Tatsuomi as the presence of the Chiyu threatens away Ghost-type terrestrialization on that Incineroar, and it also threatens huge damage onto the Calyrex Ice Rider. A lot of times, Calyrex Ice Rider will terrestrialize into a fire type in this position, just so you don't take super effective damage from this Pokemon, or you even get resisted damage depending on what attack the opponent picks. I would not be surprised to see Kevin go for that this turn here. You could try and set up Trick Room again early, but I think you have to prioritize getting another burn down onto that Zamazenta, and then you need to start doing damage a bit more aggressively.
And it's a tough decision for Tatsuomi, as you mentioned, the fake out potential into Zamazenta or the Will-O-Wisp, which landed very early on in the game. One imp just hurt so much damage, but he's gonna listen here and adjusting instead of Incineroar terrestrializing in game 1.
Willst du damit halten? Bei den Juniors vielleicht.
And Calyrex Terra Fire on this turn would resist the potential heat
Fake out doch.
into that slot. Fake out from Incineroar stops Zamazenta's attack on the turn thanks to that flinch, but it's a dark hole into the still dark type Incineroar, going to take that way better here in game 2. Now Trick Room is up, Calyrex fully healthy, and Incineroar still with a lot of HP.
With a lot of HP and a lot of time on the field to land another burn against that Zamazenta, to parting shot out to weaken the attack or the special attack of Tatsuomi's Pokemon. There are plenty of options that he did not have in the previous game, thanks to the fire type terrestrialization, and again, just how these Pokemon are going to struggle to do damage as a result.
GU, because of that choice specs held item, is forced essentially to swap out on this turn to reset the attack it wants to click later. And of course,
der wird jetzt halt, der muss protecten eigentlich mit Zamazenta, sonst wird er wieder geburnt. Oh nein. Oh mein Gott, was? Glacial Lance? Was? Wenn er jetzt auch noch Willow und Zamazenta gedrückt hat, dann geht's rein in Game 3 Chat.
Learning from game 1 where that Rillaboom swapped in to take high horsepower. That
ja, wir gehen rein in Game 3.
Rillaboom knocked out and now Zamazenta burned alongside of it.
Insult to injury or burn.
Hätte ich mal hier Comeback.
Well, 2 games in a row that Will-O-Wisp has connected.
Ja, okay, nevermind. Zamazenta, wir wissen, der ist ein Kollege.
Dark type Incineroar, so it's more than enough for the KO. They do trade 2 very strong Pokemon, but I would definitely say Kevin Hahn comes out on top.
Mal schauen, was dazu immer noch mit hat. Hat er Iron Treads mit?
Because of the burn, and Calyrex got the attack boost.
Calyrex got the attack.
Boah, Ranger Ball jetzt hier in
is
Q
going to be the
zünden.
slowest
Oh,
Pokemon
Iron
on the
Treads
field,
is so ready.
but hey, that Iron Treads is
so
still
ready.
here. Tatsuomi opting to bring the same 4 Pokemon
White
into this matchup that we saw from him in game number 1. Going back to game number 1, we saw this Iron Treads go for Protect in this situation just to see what Kevin will lock into. Again, we saw Kevin very consistently target down that slot with a high horsepower. Rillaboom's no longer there to take those attacks, so even if your opponent protects this turn, you're eventually going to land it.
Right, there's essentially no need to worry about the wide guard mind games for Glacial Lance when you have 2 steel types on the field that don't want to take a high horsepower, and a fire type Chiyu in the back that wouldn't want to swap into
wird halt High Horsepower.
Kevin smartly clicking the Glacial or the
High Horsepower Iron Treads wahrscheinlich, oder?
Would go into the Protect and wouldn't hit Iron Treads anyway in case he hit that slot, but there are 2 turns of Trick Room left for Kevin.
There are 2 turns of Trick Room and 3 turns of Grassy Terrain, which means that Zamazenta will have a couple more turns to not necessarily keep that burn damage around. That all being said, though, Kevin is in the driver's seat for this matchup as he can go on the offense. One thing I do want to call out here is the fact that getting that Glacial Lance to connect with that Rillaboom a couple turns ago was so important for him because of the risk of wide guard on that Zamazenta.
Oh my God.
Iron Treads. We are not making it up, everybody. One of the bug typing, one of the most underrepresented types in all of Pokemon, will help the Iron Treads take that high horsepower, resisting it. But the critical hit Thunderbolt means Iron Treads can't survive the turn, and Zamazenta's all by himself on the battlefield right now. That could have been an amazing Terra for Tatsuomi, but instead, it's going to result in a KO.
Zamazenta doing its best to get a little bit of damage thanks to body press down onto the opposing Calyrex Ice Rider. Tatsuomi is now down to his final 2 Pokemon. Chi-Yu, who cannot protect thanks to the Choice Specs item that it's holding, and that Zamazenta. This is also going to be the final turn of Trick Room. So while this Calyrex Ice Rider still needs to click high horsepower to be safe, it is able to land that against the Chi-Yu and pick up that KO.
There's the one-hit KO into Chi-Yu, so it's Calyrex knockout of the game, getting another attack boost. And here's the booster energy, aided, I should say, Thunderbolt into Zamazenta doing over half. That's the other important thing from that turn before, Gabby, is that the booster energy onto Raging Bolt's special attack meant that Thunderbolt does even more damage, meaning the critical hit is even stronger.
It is, and with just Zamazenta remaining on the field for Tatsuomi, I think it's time we turn our eyes towards a game number 3 here in the Juniors Finals at the World Championships.
Kevin Han has forced a final and decisive Game 3 against his junior opponent, Tatsuomi Shimanuki. The winner of this match is going to leave Honolulu as the Junior Division World Champion. And I think, Tatsuomi, I think we would agree, Gabby, those 4 Pokemon seem to be the core 4 to bring, but that turn 1 was just so great from Kevin.
It was an incredible adjustment from Kevin. Again, recognizing that the Ghost-type Terastallization on that Incineroar was punished by the presence of the Chi-Yu. And when your opponent leads Chi-Yu and you know that it's there, that gives you all the confidence you need to lock in the Fire-type Terastallization on that Calyrex Ice Rider. That was also an amazing play from Kevin here, where he did go for Glacial Lance despite the presence of a wide guard on the Zamazenta, correctly predicting that his opponent wouldn't go for it.
I love to see the emotion. I love to see the passion. These are the trainers that are the future of the competitive Pokemon circuit. Seeing how passionate they are now makes us so happy to see how much they're going to grow as trainers. This is one of the toughest matches they'll face in their short lives so far, but it's going to help them progress to even better players once they make it to the Masters Division.
That being said, though, there's still only one battle separating both of these trainers from the title of Junior World Champion. And we spent a little bit there talking about how Kevin adjusted his game plan between games 1 and 2. Let's take a moment to talk about how Tatsuomi could potentially adjust his game plan going into this game number 3. When you think about how that first game played out, it was really the positioning between the Rillaboom and the Iron Treads that gave him the time he needed to get through Trick Room and ultimately win the game. We saw Kevin adapt to that in game number 2, but to me that means in game number 3 you can also make an adaptation. You know, maybe you assume that your opponent knows there's the Iron Treads on the field, there's a possibility for high horsepower, I'll make that switch, and then go ahead and turn that against it.
Yeah, I think Tatsuomi is in a really tough spot mentally. That's not safe for the Pokemon.
It's a Nintendo Direct.
Difficult decisions you have to make every single turn. Do I swap? Do I protect? Can I stop Trick Room from going up? Can I punish Terrafire Calyrex a little bit better than I did?
Hypt euch jetzt nicht zu sehr, also am 20. Aber nur für die Nintendo-Museen, die demnächst aufmachen. Da gibt es 10 Minuten Nintendo Direct.
There aren't that many options, unfortunately, unfortunately, you can try and make a incredible prediction and get damage down into that slot. If you're able to catch a fire-type terrestrialization with a high horsepower, that could be one out. But instead, we're seeing a very similar lead here from Tatsuomi in game number 3.
This is for all
Let's
the
go,
marbles,
Tatsuomi.
everybody. Game 3, Kevin Han,
Urshifu.
Tatsuomi, Shimanuki. Tatsuomi
Unangenehm.
with Chiyu, Zamazenta. They've swapped sides, but it's the same lead. And then Urshifu, Rapid Strike.
Unangenehm.
Next to Calyrex, Ice Rider. That Urshifu has the choice
Okay.
scarf. It's faster than Chiyu.
Kevin drückt
It's
jetzt
faster
Searching
than
Strikes
Chiyu,
in
and
Chiyu
while
und
we
Glacial
know
Lance.
that Chiyu can terrestrialize to survive the hit from the Urshifu, that is a big commitment for
Und
Tatsuomi
ich
to
weiß nicht,
make
was Tatsuomi
in
dagegen machen soll.
turn 1 of game 3 here. If he has that Iron Tread still in the back of his party, he might want to save terrestrialization for that bug type. On the other side of the field, Kevin really can comfortably go for that fire-type terrestrialization once again on the Calyrex, knowing that the Chiyu has already been revealed.
But Zamazenta has to feel at least
Zeig aus dem
comfortable in
Calyrex
some
weg.
capacity this turn, since Incineroar
Ja,
is
könnte
not
vielleicht den
here
Calyrex
to
trotzdem
ruin its
terrestrializen.
day and burn it with Will-O-Wisp. It's potentially in the back. You have to be prepared for that, but it is not on the field
Ja.
on turn 1. So
Der hat
you
jetzt
can't burn
Calyrex.
these body presses into the other
Urshifu,
side.
ne,
Kevin
Mann.
Han terrestrializing Urshifu, Rapid Strike,
Boah,
getting
killt
additional
es
damage
Chiyu
from those
auch
water
mit Terra
attacks. The
Ghost?
surging strikes, they're already massive and they're going to be even bigger
Nein, er meint, okay,
in this
gut.
game. There's no protects, there's no, you can't protect anyway in front
Oh,
of
7
Chiyu,
Chiyu.
or with Chiyu. That's only a 2-hit KO. You don't even need the third surging strike.
A huge momentum shift for Kevin
wollte auch gar nicht sehen,
as
alles gut.
he's able to secure a knockout on the first move of the first turn of this
Immer
game
mal ein
3.
stronger Body
And
Press.
there's the body press.
Boah.
That does some pretty solid
Glacial
damage
Lance,
into
okay.
Urshifu. Definitely cannot take another one. Here's the Glacial Lance that is ineffective.
Ist aber,
thanks to
glaub ich, gar nicht so
Zamazenta's
ultra schlimm,
steel
actually.
typing. So you do lose your Chiyu, but you do get a lot of damage onto the Urshifu.
gar nicht so
And Trick
schlimm.
Room is not set up.
And you also cover for the potential
actually.
Rillaboom switch in that turn. Instead, Chiyu was just knocked out, which means we do get the Rillaboom here now. Urshifu, very threatened by this Pokemon. It is more than within a grassy
Ich glaub,
glide
Tatsuomi ist eigentlich
knockout
trotzdem in einer
range.
ganz guten Position
So,
gerade.
if Kevin wants to save that Urshifu for later on in this game, again, to put more pressure down onto the Zamazenta, which Tatsuomi has shown us time and time again is very comfortable staying on the field, you have to switch that Pokemon out. Without Chiyu around, though, this seems like a great opportunity for Incineroar to take the field.
Right, exactly. One, because Incineroar would love to just switch in general in front of the grass type on Rillaboom on the other end. But of course, because Urshifu's locked into the Choice Scarf Surging Strikes, it would take
Nee,
tough
drück
spot,
einfach
but
Surging
instead,
Strikes,
he's
okay.
going to use Surging Strikes with Urshifu.
Okay,
Knows that
passt.
potentially this Rapid Strike Pokemon is not long for the rest of this match. So let me
Aber
get some
ich-
more critical hit
Boah, ich hoffe, der hat
damage
Calyrex
on
double
the
targeted.
field.
Bitte hat
Brings
Calyrex double
Zamazenta
targeted.
down
Bitte
to
hat
under
Calyrex
half
double
of its
targeted.
HP remaining. So the body press
Gottron wird
will
sterben.
knock out Urshifu. He's
Gottron
done
wird
his
sterben.
job. He's done, essentially 1.5 times the HP bars of Tatsuomi's Pokemon. So Urshifu has put in so much work in Game 3. But
Oh,
it's
no,
the
mein-
U-turn from Rillaboom. The real question is, did Calyrex go for the Stomping Tantrum into
Aber wird
Zamazenta?
Glacial Lance drücken.
We'll have
Oder
to
Stomping
wait just a
Tantrum in
little
Zamazenta.
bit longer to get that information, but we do get the reveal of Tatsuomi's final Pokemon, and once again, it is the Iron
Trick Room,
Treads
okay.
taking the field.
It's Trick Room instead
Wenn er
of the
jetzt
attack. So now on the second turn
Incineroar
of the game,
rauskommt.
Kevin is able to twist those dimensions, and you have a free switch into either the Incineroar or whatever the fourth Pokemon in the back will be for Kevin.
I love this positioning from Kevin there as well.
Junge, was
One
geht mit
thing
dem
that
Screen?
Tatsuomi could have done in that previous turn is target down the Calyrex Ice Rider
kann
with
Iron
both
Treads
an
wieder nicht
attack from
dingsen.
that Zamazenta
Hier
and
waren
a
wir schon mal.
Woodhammer from that Rillaboom to get very close, if not knock it out outright. But because we saw Kevin commit to that Trick Room, recognizing that he might lose a Pokemon that turn, as long as
protected
Trick
hier mit
Room
Iron
is
Treads
there
und
for
greift
if
mit
Raging Bulls or
Zamazenta
Raging Bolt
an.
can come in while the Urshifu is still around, that is still a very favorable board
schwer.
position for him, as the Calyrex will still be able to attack first,
Schwer.
and the Raging Bolt should underspeed the Zamazenta as well.
Yeah, this Amazenta already under half HP, so it's in a really critical position for Tatsuomi. You know you can get some recovery every turn.
Oh, Calyrex Protect, okay.
As grassy terrain is here, it'll give you a little bit of HP at the end of each turn. Double Protect from Kevin here on the turn. We've actually seen that now multiple times. That as he sets up his own Trick Room, he will then protect the following turn. Iron Treads goes for the Protect as well to keep itself safe. Body Press doesn't hit into the Raging Bolt, so no damage from anybody, only health recovery.
And Kevin again anticipating the Protect on that Iron Treads to ensure that Zamazenta can't find a knockout in this turn. Now you can fairly safely target into the Iron Treads with your Pokemon. You do still have to worry about a wide guard, and you do have to worry about the Rillaboom switching in for that Iron Treads as well. So there's a bit of a mind game here as to what attack Kevin uses with that Calyrex. But still, none of these Pokemon are necessarily worried about being knocked out this turn. And as you can see, Calyrex actually switching out to keep itself safe. So Kevin just going on the offense
Iron Treads in Rillaboom.
Kevin going to reveal his fourth and final Pokemon in Game 3, being the Incineroar. Let's see if Tatsuomi was prepared for this situation. These Trick Room turns are so tricky to get through when you're not the Pokemon or the trainer that takes advantage of it. Terra, Bug, Iron Treads yet again in Game 3. Last time it was double targeted, so that's why it wasn't able to hang on. But he did get crit by a Booster Energy Thunderbolt from Raging Bolt. This time it goes towards the Zamazenta, and Tatsuomi has lost his restricted Pokemon in Game 3. It's this, just the Iron Tread. Steel Roller with the grassy terrain into a Fire type. It does hardly anything.
It does hardly anything, and it will also tear up the grassy terrain.
Ja, aber glaube ich kein IQ. Wäre auch grassy terrain draußen gewesen.
Shortly to reset that terrain and give Iron Treads access to Steel Roller once again.
But you really
wanted to land that attack into the Calyrex Ice Rider, which is why you terrastalize, so you can take those hits.
Nee, das ist für alle für heute das Setting. Highhorse, einfach hat er nicht Highhorse gedrückt.
You have access to fake out this turn. You can go ahead and maybe protect your Iron Treads for one of these turns, or fake out and protect to get through both turns. But you have to find your way through Trick Room in order to keep an advantage and keep yourself in the game for that World Champion title.
Incineroar does not have a fire attack. There is no Flare Blitz because of Lilith being that fourth slot. So both of the grass and bug types on the field right now are not threatened by super effective damage. Draco Meteor lands into Iron Treads. It's going to be more than enough for the KO. And Tatsuomi
Kevin holt sich die Weltmeisterschaft.
Pokemon, it's just Rillaboom versus the world.
Rillaboom does have that grassy terrain to help keep its health higher and also boost the damage of its grass type attacks.
Ich hab's, Chat, ich hab den. Das hab ich.
Calyrex Ice Rider waiting in the wings. Will it have enough in the tank to take all three of these KOs?
That's the forfeit, and Kevin Hahn throughout the season has proved he's the best junior in the world. EUIC champion, NAIC champion, and now world champion in the juniors division for the Pokemon video game.
With an excellent piloting of that Calyrex Ice Rider team, being able to anticipate his opponent's adjustments throughout all three of those incredibly long games. Kevin has shown us just why he is one of the most awarded junior champions in Pokemon video game history.
Games 2 and 3 arguably were shorter combined than Game 1 was. There was so
sein
much
letzter
back and
Junior,
forth in Game 1.
sein
These
letztes
two
Junior,
trainers playing at an elite level, trying to figure out their tendencies, trying to figure out their play styles on what type of risky decisions they can get rewarded for. And Kevin losing Game 1
wahrscheinlich seine ganzen USA-Freunde.
to win the series is so impressive.
Tatsuomi's play throughout that matchup was impressive as well. Who would have expected to see Iron Treads in that matchup, ready to threaten all that damage down onto the Incineroar, onto the Calyrex Ice Rider? Tatsuomi recognizing that it was definitely the Pokemon to play there, and I think I owe you a bit of humble pie, Joe Brown, as I said we would not be seeing that bug-type terastallization, and...
So nice we saw it twice.
Yeah, it was so nice we saw it twice, so congratulations. I give that one to you.
Thank you. I tell you, let's I mean, this first turn was so huge because Chi-Yu being led instead of in the back. It meant that even if you Terra goes, Surging Strike still does a lot, right? And the follow-up attack would be able to knock it out regardless.
Ich wünsche dir einen wunderschönen guten Nacht. Ich hoffe, du schläfst sehr, 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 sehr gut. morgen dann Big News, wenn du wach bist. Pause bis zu Seniors. I guess so 10 Minuten. Roundabout 10 Minuten.
If I get Zamazenta down under half and then any chip damage later on will take care of it, it's better to focus on my win conditions than my opponents.
I'm so glad you mentioned that Chi-Yu as well, because I think going into game number 1, Kevin was not sure if that Pokemon would be making an appearance in the matchup. That all being said, though, after he saw the Chi-Yu in that game number 1, he was able to correctly predict that it would be making an appearance again in games 2 and games 3 and adjusted his playstyle accordingly. I have to eyeball the calculation a little bit there, but it looked like that Terra Water Terrestrialization on Urshifu would have guaranteed the knockout even if we did see that Ghost type Terrestrialization.
Right.
So a great adaptation.
Exactly. That's one of those kind of pin situations we talk about in VGC at the high level that effectively it's a positive outcome no matter what, right? It was like we saw in
der hat jetzt gewonnen.
That turn where Rillaboom swapped in. Well, he either gets knocked out from the Glacial Lance or he doesn't swap the Rillaboom in, which I'm happy. I'm going to be in a positive position either way. But finally, Tatsuyumi takes his first loss of the end. Kevin Hahn also taking his first loss of Top Cut in the finals.
And that's all you can ask for in a finals, right? As someone in the audience, you want it to be close, you want it to be very exciting, and you want to see just why either of these trainers could leave here as the world champion. And that's exactly what we saw from Kevin Hahn and Tatsuomi Shimanuki as well.
Yeah, I think Kevin has to be so happy with these Pokemon. I think Raging Bolt picked up the trifecta of these three championships. I believe Raging Bolt was on all 3 of the championships
für die News zu geiern.
at the international level this season. So
ist ein bisschen schade.
All over the world.
Ich habe auch Bock auf News.
From your favorite Pokemon and win.
Aber man sollte dem Event schon seinen Schein geben.
Become world champion. It's got to be a great feeling.
I think so, and I also love to see trainers iterate on the same team throughout the season. I know that EUIC was obviously in a different regulation, so it's not like a one-to-one comparison, but just seeing people utilize the same tools and the same Pokemon time and time again, it gives you that expertise, and it helps you just rely on those, almost like a muscle memory when you're in these tough matchups and you're trying to figure out the best path forward. So picking a restricted Pokemon that you like, picking a strategy that you like for us that's Trick Room, I think that's so important in building your skills to become
sollten wir heute auch erfahren, wo die Worlds stattfinden. Ich predikte Paris.
So let's get an interview. Anna, take it away.
I am here with your champion, Kevin Hahn.
Safe, ja.
Kevin, game 1 didn't go so well for you, but you were able to keep it calm and collected and move on to 2 and 3 and come out victorious. How did you do that?
So I calmed myself down, and in the time between the matches, I thought about what my opponent would do. Now, in the World Championships, I feel like if you go with the same plan twice, it's not gonna work. So I figured they'd change up their lead to Chi-Yu Zamazenta. So after I saw that it was Chi-Yu Zamazenta and I let Calyrex Incineroar, I thought about what they would do. Now, they don't want to, like, so after I got Trick Room up with my fake out in Trick Room, I thought about it and I said, they're not gonna stay in with their Chi-Yu because I can easily double up to it and knock it out.
Das ist
They'll
eine
probably bring in the
Muttersprache.
Rillaboom. So I clicked Glacial Lance and it worked.
Sure did. Great thinking. Now, I know that you've done a lot of training with some very special people, especially in your family. Tell us about your training for this event.
So I prepped a lot. I first tried to find out what my team was, and I figured that out in like 3 or 4 weeks. It was really tough, but I managed to do it. And then after that, I started preparing the matchups, which I did for the remainder. And then I worked with my coaches, Kylan Van Severin, Justin Tang, Justin Karras, and especially my brother Chris. He's the one who helped me through this tournament the most.
And I know that he's helped you through many tournaments. You have been NEIC champion, EUIC champion, now you're world champion. What are you going to do next?
Go for senior internationals, I guess.
Sounds like a good plan.
Ja,
Is there anyone you want to say hi to or thank you to that you haven't listed already?
Zu uns.
I want to thank my Mousehole Discord friends,
my Mousehole Discord
friends, and my family.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again, Kevin. Let's hear it one more time for your Junior World Champion.
Klär's in Chat. für Kevin.
And don't go anywhere because we have lots more in store for you going into the senior division. Casters, back to you.
Thank you so much. One world champion crowned for the video game today. 2 more to go. Cannot wait to get started with the seniors division of our competition. Sierra Dawn, Lee Provost, what a match to be kicking off the video game.
Incredible way for us to start Championship Sunday for the video game, and it's only going to get better from here. And that is saying something after that match, which was absolutely incredible. What a show from both of our junior trainers.
100%. And of course, we have to make sure we can get our other players queued up on the stage. And while we get that ready, we have some giveaways for you. First off, we're talking about world champion Pokemon, and this Sylveon was won last year. And your opportunity to grab it in-game now, especially because this should be very good in the upcoming regulation.
Yeah, make sure you jump.
Ich meine, wir haben schon zu spät mit BGC eigentlich reingestartet, ne?
Worlds, and you'll be able to grab
2:15 Uhr sollte BGC starten.
Of August. Great one for the upcoming regulation, like you've been saying all weekend.
Ja, nicht so viel Drip, das stimmt.
Championships and a great thing for the collection all around.
Dafür muss Michi leider gewinnen.
Pokemon, so good stuff there.
Aber ich gönne ihm natürlich.
And of course, if you play both of the games, or even if you're watching, but more so play the TCG, have the opportunity to get a special illustration to run in-game. Make sure to grab it while you can. Outburst Worlds 24.
Also ich habe auch Bock auf die News.
Yeah, make sure to grab this one while you can. Beautiful artwork and a great addition for the collection once again. Now we're getting into the seniors side of things. We've had juniors. Now we can take an overview of the seniors bracket, see where trainers have come from that top 8 stage.
One thing that we always talk about with the junior competitors is this is the future of
Auch
Pokemon.
alle 2-0.
But these are the individuals that sooner rather than later we're going to get to see in that Masters division. And so being able to, especially when we're looking at Luke's case, ended off with a win like this would be absolutely fantastic. 2-0s all across the bracket for both of our competitors. So Ray, definitely a very worthy opponent here.
Yeah, very dominant.
Das stimmt schon von uns, ja.
Right the way to the finals. Luke is coming into this final with a 12-0 record. Hasn't dropped a single set this entire tournament, which is just incredible. Ray, on the other hand, 10-2 record, which is understandable. You know, a brilliant record. You're at the World Championships, the highest caliber of players, and these both have very interesting teams as well. But the route that they've had to take to get here, just a very tough one. Testament to both of our trainers.
Yeah, the competition is nothing but fierce once we get into the World Championships, and one match away for both of these to determine who is going to be the next World Champion up. And this should be a really exciting matchup because across the board, I mean, we've already looked at these Pokemon, we've looked at the caliber of these trainers. This one's going to hook.
Yeah, and I think this is the one thing when you look at an overview of the teams from both sides, I think it really could go either way. It's so tight. There's so many options both trainers have to kind of take apart the other trainer's team, and it's really going to be down to the choices, how well both of these understand the matchup and how well they can kind of approach dealing with those big threats on the other side of the field.
I think adaptations as well, because when you look at this, there's not necessarily
one
way
to
approach, but
Kevin
you got to make sure you can make
rankommen.
those adjustments in game, and it's really going to be a testament to both of these trainers because they've made it this far. The 2-0s in that top 8 are definitely on their side, but I think this is going to be the first one.
Wen haben wir gesagt, sind wir für Luke, glaube ich, ne?
So. It feels like it will do. I think, with the tools that both trainers have got in their teams, there's ways for them to kind of capitalize against what the other trainer is going to try and do throughout this match. We will dive into the teams, of course.
Mach schon mal Dings an, Chat. Ihr könnt auch noch warten. Hab 10 Minuten gemacht. Stimmt, der hat Ente, genau, wir sind für Luke, weil der Ente hat. Hab 10 Minuten Wette gemacht, also könnt ihr noch chillen.
Again, testament to our trainers with how well they have prepared coming into this event. And not only that, the preparation is a huge key in it, but also testament to how well they've performed on the big stage and getting to this stage and almost there to be crowned the 2024 World Champion.
This is the really exciting thing with this regulation as well, being able to see where trainers have taken this and where people have started off, because we'll get to really be able to dive into accomplishments and stuff in a little bit. But when you start off the regulation, like in Luke's case as a regional champion, to then start off the format strong and potentially end it off even stronger, I think that's a really, really cool thing, especially too for anyone that's been able to really dive into this. And for Ray himself, I mean, relatively newer player, so this is humongous.
Yeah, and the qualification process for both players is slightly different. You know, Ray's had to come through a different qualification system over in Japan, which is very vigorous, very difficult, and being able to qualify that way, so it's a testament in itself to be able to even be here. And then you look at Luke's side of the field. Last year in seniors, we'll be leveling up to Masters next year, which is exciting. So the last chance almost to be crowned that seniors champion. So he's at the point he's done the work now. So can he get over the line? He's got a big, tough opponent in front of him. Challenge ahead with Ray. But yeah, coming off the back of a regionals championship, you know, Indianapolis earlier this year, I think will help him a lot, especially because that was in Regulation G as well, which we're in now.
Especially too when you're looking at that last year before going up into the Masters division.
Luke hat Indianapolis NAIC gewonnen, was auch Regulation G war.
Senior world champions who still play and are still, I mean, performing fantastically, taking down regional championships, going for these long runs in these tournaments. So Luke already really proving the skill to, I don't know, kind of make a couple of people scared next year once he's playing at their level. This would even just be more terrifying.
Pokémon TCG.
Yeah, well, I was speaking to Luke before he came on and had the pleasure to
sieht
have a
echt
few
ziemlich
words
cool
with
aus.
him, and he
Und wer ist der Kollege, Alter?
does against the Masters at his local events.
Wer ist
how,
denn
you
der
know,
Kollege?
he's taking games off them already, so you're going to be a very scary prospect, especially in the Masters division as he is leveling up next season. And it's one of those things where we do commonly see seniors come in, have a really good run, claim the championship, and then level up into Masters, and then have a huge impact in that circuit the next season. It's not uncommon for us to see. We've seen it time and time again. And it's really great to be at this point now where we're at the World Championships, one of the biggest stage possible for these trainers, for them to showcase their talents and us to get a little sneak peek potentially of what's to come in future years.
I've had the honor of being able to play against Luke Hedaloko actually, and yeah, I could definitely can definitely attest to the skill here. Do not get me wrong on that. But I'm really excited to have this first opportunity to really look at Ray play. And it was funny because you were talking about getting an opportunity to talk with the players, and Ray had mentioned that, like, yeah, I expected Worlds to be tough, and it was. And I love that kind of humble approach to it. Like, yeah, I've worked hard, I've pushed on through, and I'm now at this spot. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear, and it's so great to get a few words with the players as well before they get into the nitty-gritty. But with that said, Anna is waiting over on stage with her players, so let's introduce them for this seniors final.
Hey.
Let's meet your senior finalists. Please welcome to the stage, from the US, Luke Crow. And from Japan, Ray Yamanaka.
Hey. Gut, Ray scheinbar nicht da, schade. Ah, da kommt der Kollege. Ray.
Thank you both for joining us. We can't wait to watch you play. Just one question before we start. We've seen you play in regionals before. We know a little bit what to expect from you. What can we expect here in this match in the World Championships?
Helping hand Draco Meteor.
Nice, very specific. Thank you, Luke. And what about you? What can we expect to see here in this match from you?
これからの試合はどんな感じになるかと思いますか？どういうようなことを
Oh, nee, habe ich nicht mitbekommen, Dave.
見てる方からは予想すればいいでしょうか？
わからないけれど、自分自身の力を全力で出し切りたいと思います。
I have no idea what you should all expect to see, but I'm just going to give it my all and do my very best.
That's all we can ask, Ray. Thank you so much. Let's hear one more big round of applause for our finalists. You can head to your tables. Thank you so much. We can't wait to watch you play. Casters, let's get into this match.
Love having the opportunity to hear from our players ahead of the match. And
Stark.
I love the varied responses coming out here, helping Draco Meteors. All right.
Achso, warte, ein Schild.
Of what to come here,
Moment.
but right, it'll be especially intriguing to see whereabouts he wants to be going with his strategy for this match, because there's a couple of different ways to really approach this. This restricted he has on his end can really go a variety of ways, but you know that you're looking for heavy damage. This could be such an intense match.
Yeah, very intense. I think you nail it there, Sierra, with the Calyrex being the one option that Ray's got on his side of the field. Does have access to being able to set up, to get that power boost with the nasty plot. And if it's in the right position to do that, it's going to outrun everything on Luke's side of the field. And he's going to have his wits about him to deal with those Astral Barrages, which are going to come out heavy and picking up potential knockouts if Ray can get it set up into those situations.
I know when we've looked at this match that there is a couple of different ways the players can go ahead and approach this. So I'm very intrigued once we get into this matchup, what road they opt to go down for, because when we're looking at one end of the board, I want to wait till I got the headsets to really dive into this. There is two really big ways that you can approach this matchup, and it's going to be on the other to really kind of respond to see how well they did their homework last night. Headsets on. I think when you're looking at Luke, there's two very different ways you can go about this.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it is all about the decisions here. The leads are very important for this match because I think if you look at Ray's side of the field, he's got that Calyrex, he's got the Amoonguss. It's a really nice option for him to kind of lead out there, and it's got the Rage Powder support to pull in any of those threatening things that could come from Luke's side of the field, like that Miraidon, for instance, and allow that nasty plot to be set up, because if you do get that, it enables the Shadow Rider Calyrex to just be that really dominant force on the side of the field, and you've got other support options there with the Incineroar that you could potentially bring the Rillaboom.
Eine Stunde, das wird bestimmt noch ein bisschen länger dauern, außer wir sehen jetzt zwei schnelle 2-0. Okay, Chat, Wette läuft noch. Rein da. An all die noch nicht gewettet haben.
Attacking moves, but it's also going to benefit the fact that the Amoonguss is on the opposite side of the field. It is threatening with that spawn. As long as the electric train's out, you don't need to worry about that threat.
See, I'm looking at the fact that Luke does have these damaging output options to make sure you can try and match and out-damage Ray, because when I'm looking at this nasty plot Calyrex, something that can boost, you cannot be passive, and you do have those passive options. But I think Luke knows you cannot allow these setups. When you're giving the little hint of a helping hand to Meteor, I think he understands the importance of not giving any wiggle room over to Ray.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a big important thing. I think one thing you look at with that Amoonguss, though, is its terror typing. You can't freely throw Draco Meteors out like he's talking about when you're looking at neutralization on that Amoonguss. But before we get in any further with the teams, let's take a look at the accomplishments from our players.
Both relatively new, which I think is really, really cool. So we'll start talking about Ray first. So the top 64, we're looking at the qualification, and I love this, but Ray has been just playing since Scarlet and Violet. So that is such a big testament to the type of player that you're going to be, that jumping into this new game and new generation, that this is going to be the type of performances that you put up.
Yeah, incredible to know that you've only just recently come into this game and you're already on the stage at the World Championships in a final. For Luke on the other side of the field, he always has that regional win in Indianapolis, as a top 8 in the Vancouver Regional Championships from earlier this year, and also only started very recently in 2022.
Kein Willow.
Talking a little bit more about the teams, we touched on the importance of that Calyrex Shadow Rider, but looking at the other options around it, we got the double grass here, the Rillaboom and the Amoonguss. Of course, you do have to be wary of the potential Armor Tail to stop the takeout, but the Rillaboom does still have really good utility in that grassy surge to get rid of the train of the Miraidon. And the Amoonguss, it'll be that redirection. Of course, you're not going to appreciate double up hits, but if you can keep the Calyrex Shadow Rider safe for long enough, that could be the difference.
It could be a huge difference in this match, and the thing with the grassy terrain as well is you can overwrite that electric terrain, and it enables that Spore then to be a big threat on the opposite side of the field, which is really useful. The other thing to note as well is that Incineroar does have that taunt and the Covert Cloak, so it's able to not really worry too much about maybe the Iron Hands on the opposite side of the field with that fake out, where it has a free taunt into those things like the Amoonguss and things like that that could be a bit threatening.
Yet again, the championship dream, starting it off, starting that Pokemon journey, very reminiscent of that treasure hunt that you do at the beginning of the story, and what's going to be your treasure. Well, he definitely is about to add maybe something new to that collection, a World Championship trophy. So I'm so excited to see how that will turn out. But a worthy opponent sitting on the other end. You talked about that regional win, kicking the season off strong and potentially ending it off even stronger. Miraidon, the restricted of choice. And when we look at the supportive options,
Ich liebe
Grimstyle is a
Specs
nice
gegen
popular one to
Miraidon.
be pairing with it, with these screens. But the Entei is something that we haven't necessarily seen the most of, but definitely offering a lot in this match.
Yeah, especially with that normal terror typing that it's got there, and a little bit different maybe than the Entei that we've seen in the past, where its common item is that choice band.
Ziehen die an. Fleckleon ist ein Opfer. Luca steht 12-0. Okay, kranke Scheiße. Schafft er einen Perfect Run? Das wäre crazy. Ah, Luke meinst du, ne? Ja, das wäre krank.
This is such an impressive statistic. Undefeated
Nee,
all the way
Opfer.
to the finals.
So, was ist der Low-Kick?
Now it's gonna be the most
Low-Kick macht
important
übelst
match
viel
of all.
Damage.
You can
Für
go
viele Mons.
say that one
ist ein
more
sehr guter
time.
Move.
Family in the crowd supporting.
Oh.
Nice journey out, but this is gonna be so exciting. I cannot wait. Either side of the table, a very worthy champion.
Yeah, exactly that. And both
Ich finde es immer so süß, wie bei den jüngeren Teilnehmern die Eltern immer so geisteskrank supportive sind.
One more thing to do. Got to take one step
Ich finde es so
further and
unendlich
claim
süß.
that championship for themselves. Both players have the opportunity to do it. We've kind of covered and touched upon some of the things that these players are trying to go for in these matches. But the important Pokemon, I think, for both players, the Urshifu could be really important for Luke. Could also be more important on Ray's side of the field because of how important that Entei is.
Finde ich wichtig, dass
on
bei mir
Luke's
supported.
side,
Ja,
how
safe.
excited he is about that Pokemon in general, how much it feels like it's going to be something that he can utilize, sit in front of that Calyrex, take that Terrestrialization, not really worry about those Astral Barrages. So then you're looking at something
Was
like
sind die Eltern noch so Pokémon? Ist das so ein Ballerspiel?
Luke's team is full of threats though. Focus too close in onto the Entei. And all of a sudden this Miraidon is about to Electro Drift in your face, or Luke's own Urshifu to fire back. So this was going to be so intense to see what these trainers want to lead with, because that's going to be the biggest road for what they have to go down heading down this championship series. It is time to start getting underway with the first match here in our senior world champions match. Cannot wait to see how this is going to be going down. The leads, we're going to see Miraidon up the bat. Farigaraph's going to be the partner.
Das macht eigentlich wen, der schon zweimal gewonnen hat. Ray Rizzo.
Yeah, it's a
Das ist
really
der einzige, der
aggressive
zweimal
start
Worlds
here
gewonnen
from
hat.
Luke, going with that Miraidon straight out of the gate. It's going to pressure both that Calyrex with this electric train being set up, and more importantly, that Urshifu on
Dreimal hat
Ray's
sogar,
side.
okay,
But
ja.
the Urshifu
Einmal
on Ray's
back-to-back.
side, not really immediately pressured, because it is going to be able to get an attack off. It does have that focus sash.
Kitchen, let's go.
I'm going to be able to take one attack and maybe get some really pivotal damage onto something like that Farigarath. You can't say the same for the Calyrex though. That has the Astral Barrage, but the Farigarath on Luke's side going to be immune to that. Not really going to be really threatened by that Psychic either. So is it in a position where it can get a nasty plot off? It is pretty risky. Can you take an attack from this Miraidon?
So we're not going to test it out. That will be the protect. Make sure you can scout out what this Miraidon
Okay,
is
lass uns
posing
scouten.
and does as
Checke.
Urshifu also detecting. Luke had spoken about how there's going to be these helping hand Draco Meteors, but the Volt switch
ich
and
glaube, man
attempt
kann
to
trotzdem Volt switchen.
reposition. You'll have another
kann switchen.
opportunity on that next turn. Foul play. It would be the double up. Try and get as much
Müsste
damage
Ray
as
jetzt
starting
Terran.
Yeah, there's a bit risky there because you could maybe see the Farigarath go for a Trick Room if you're expecting to get that Volt
meine, was
switch
soll-
off with the
Luke kann es doch einfach
Miraidon,
nochmal
but not
drücken.
looking into
Verliert
that,
er gar
just
nichts.
wanting to chase after that Calyrex as soon as possible. The nice thing now is that Ray does have an idea of what that Miraidon's locked into. It is choice locked, so it has to lock in again this turn to the Volt Switch. Does he go for that? Maybe that's something that Ray can take advantage of.
Okay.
I think that's the best
Ja.
move to be locked into, since you would be able to pivot out, but you will be taking some damage before, and
Okay.
a lot into that Miraidon, bringing it down
Ja.
just below half. Volt Switch a lot back
glaube,
into the Urshifu,
das
into
wird ein Kill auf
response. It does
Urshifu
have the focus sash,
und ein Kill
so
auf
will be
Calyrex,
holding
oder
on
nicht?
and will have an opportunity to
Also warum
attack.
sollte
It's
Luke was
either
anderes
this
drücken?
Farigarath or whatever is Luke's going to be bringing in.
It'll be interesting to see what the
Oder er geht für Trick Room Iron Hands hier.
from Luke's side of the field now.
Grimmsnarl, okay.
Both targets on Ray's side have attacked, and it is that Grimmsnarl.
Close
And that's
Combat.
going to be taking the close combat
Okay.
a little bit better, and the defense, that's not
Können
going
auch
to
Trick Room
matter. We
drücken.
don't
Aber
care
ich glaube, er
about the
drückt
dogs.
einfach
You're on
Foreplay in
one
Carry.
HP, you're on
Gibt's
borrowed
halt. Oh,
time.
okay.
That
Ne,
psychic
holt sich
voice
den Kill auf
gonna drop
Urshifu.
the Urshifu once and for all
Checker.
on this turn.
Now, if Luke does have that
Ja,
end
auf dem
time in
Schienchen
the
auch die
back,
Attacken.
this is a huge move for him. Yes, he's taken a bit of damage from the Astral Barrage, but there's not been that Grim Near boost.
Er ist immer noch
Great.
splitted
Not
Damage
really
bei
been knocked
Protect.
out. You've still got all your Pokemon,
Bei keine Wirkung
and
auch.
you've removed that big threat to the Entei, which could come in later on and utilize that Terrestrialization. You've got a nice position as well with your Grimmsnarl out on the field. it is going to be able to
Gleich mal.
threaten with those thunder waves or even better get some screen
Ist ja doof.
support.
Das ist actually das Beste, was im seit immer, also alle Competitive-Spieler lieben das. Weil das Game war deswegen noch nie so competitive. Psychic Noise macht, dass du dich nicht mehr heilen kannst. Alle Competitive-Spieler lieben Open Team Sheet.
You need to make sure it stays safe. And when this Grimmsnarl is threatening over on the opposing end with these Thunder Waves, if that all of a sudden targets into that Calyrex, that is going to be neutralized for the rest of the matchup. Going to be slower and a potential to not even attack. So I love the Amoonguss joining the field.
Yeah, it's a great play here from Ray. He's got that board position set up now where he has access to that Rage Powder. Nothing's really too threatened. The Psychic Noise going to do
davor war halt alles immer
damage,
so
but not enough to pick up the
random.
of the Amoonguss. So there's no immediate reason for you to have to lock in with a Terastallization here with the Amoonguss. Unlike if the Entei was out on the opposite side of the field. Again, the Grimmsnarl is threatening with the
ja, sehr weiß. Ich mag es auch viel mehr.
Great way of just protecting perfectly that Calyrex and opening the door for you to get a nasty plot off in this position.
The one thing that I'd be worried about with the nasty plot on this turn is that we do want to be going for Trick Room. It's sometimes dangerous to go for a Trick Room against Amoonguss, but since we do have that electric terrain, the only thing it'll really be able to do is some damage or just consistently keeping this Calyrex safe. There's going to be Terastallization, the Terra Fairy. For a little Amoonguss, a little heart on top. So cute out here and trying to have a little bit more longevity in this. Is Rage Powder. Move of choice. Keep the Calyrex safe.
That's a really smart Terastallization. I was saying there's no need for it, but there is a need if you want to keep that Amoonguss around a lot longer, taking away that psychic weakness and also reducing damage from a foul play. And there is the nasty plot. +2 special attack. This Calyrex is starting to get set up.
Plotting on the demise and a lot of damage on the horizon. Amoonguss just a little bit of damage in from that Psychic Noise, but Calyrex is about to dish out a world of hurt. Reminder, that Vergraph is going to be fine up against it, but you'll be doing a lot into that Grimmsnarl, picking up the KO and anything that's swapping in. And you do have another move as well. You can't just be firing off with Psychics as well.
No, that's the thing. You can't just continue going for them now. I think you need to readjust. If you are Luke, you can't allow this Calyrex to freely fire off these Astral Barrages. And this Amoonguss in a great position where we've already mentioned the Psychic Noise not going to be doing too much. And even if we do see a Thunder Wave, the Amoonguss not really too worried about that. So slow anyway.
Yeah, the Amoonguss, that's just soaking up this paralysis from the Calyrex Shadow Rider as another Astral Barrage. The Grimmsnarls already taken some damage, so coming on out, eliminating it. You do not have to worry about the Thunder Waves from here on out. And the Farigiraf, sure, it's not taking any damage, but this Calyrex now is at a +3 and constantly threatening the partner Pokemon. So perfect time for the Trick Room to make sure that horse is moving last.
Yeah, the Trick Room being sent up is really in one way a nice thing for the Amoonguss, right? Because it's so slow and it can always threaten with those balls. But because the electric terrain is still active on the field, that's not a thing that you can utilize now. The Entei coming onto the field for Luke, going to be very threatening to this Amoonguss, especially the double up from that Farigiraf. And both of these Pokemon will move first. The big risk here is if Ray decides to go for a Rage Powder, there is a chance of the fully paralysis from that Thunder Wave. So if you can't get the Rage Powder off, then your Calyrex is sitting a little bit off. Especially with a Glypho boosted Entei that can go for that Terastallization into the normal type now and have that immunity from those really threatening Astral Barrages.
And that is not there's no way around that risk with the Amoonguss. With the paralysis, you go for it, and it's not going to do anything. It cannot keep the partner Calyrex safe on this turn. But maybe the punish won't be there.
Foul play?
The protect for that first turn.
Okay.
That's so unfortunate, but I mean, you get away with it slightly there because of the Entei. Just going for that protect. The Psychic Noise coming out into the Amoonguss. Going to be able to take that a little bit better, but that's the sort of risk that you're taking at this point. The Calyrex going for the protect there. Cannot go for it again. You've got to hope if you go for the same play this time around, the Entei doesn't go for that Terastallization, and also that you don't get paralyzed.
It was a no harm, no foul on the turn. I think it was just a double protect to try and get through that first turn of Trick Room, but a real testament of how this can really just go downhill from here on out. If the Calyrex had it protected and the Luke did want to go on the offensive, that could be absolutely massive. So you know from Ray, that must be a little nerve-wracking from here on out, because you've seen the potential for where this can go wrong.
Ich wünsche, dort im Hintergrund würden so bekannte Trainer stehen, wisst ihr? So Nemona und so weiter. Haben eigentlich die Ente im Trickroom-Team? Im Trickroom-Team heißt ja nicht, dass du immer Full Speed spielen musst. Full Low Speed.
Going to be triathlization for Luke
Terra
here in
normal.
game 1, and that Entei that we talked about and the importance of it. Here's the triathlization into the normal type. So the Calyrex with these +3 special attack. If it wants to keep firing off Astro Barrages, it's not going to do anything. And in helping hand, we are looking to go on the offensive.
Oh, stark. Skills sogar, oder?
Not just offensive triathlization, but offensive as well. Extreme speed into the Raging Bolt, dropping a lot of damage.
Yeah, and the big thing is the Psychic here.
Oh, aber stark auf Psychic.
Is it enough at +3? It is enough. Taking down that huge important Pokemon for Luke.
That one-hit KO, you needed this damage, you needed to stick around, but this Calyrex, now another boost, but I think it's too late. No,
also mit Helping Hand, ja.
Down from Luke. You do have
this Raging Bolt. Aller Clark, was geht?
This Calyrex hasn't been touched. It's sitting at this +4, and sure, maybe it's in this trick room, but Luke has not made a scratch on it so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Warum drückt Luke nicht endlich Foul Play in Calyrex?
Der
hätte den schon 100-mal töten können. Jetzt protected er mit Calyrex und greift den Raging Bolt an. Nevermind, macht er nicht.
The Psychic Noise into the
Krank.
Raging Bolt, not even going for it if you restrained wrong, but I think at the World Championships, that Calyrex will all the right stats.
Na gut,
Dragon
GG.
Balls into the Miraidon.
Das ist
Super
1-0 für Ray.
effective, super critical hit. It will drop, and now the Frigorap, last Pokemon standing, and it's not going to be able to get it done.
No, and the Trick Room's still in effect, so the Calyrex, the last thing to actually attack this turn. The Miraidon not got enough in the tank to be able to take that Raging Bolt attack. Frigorap against the 3 Pokemon now on Ray's side of the field, and it probably feels a little bit too far for him to make a comeback in this one. Ray taking it with quite dominating fashion in his first game.
100%. We talked about the importance of this Calyrex Shadow Rider and not allowing it to get set up. This is going to be great to know the amount of damage that you'll do from here on
Aber es
out
ist
with
wichtige
that
Info
foul play,
für
but
Game
of course
2.
not dropping and still plenty in the tank. Good, but a second Raging Bolt, that was the self-KO.
Also ich bin für Luca in den Master Finals. Aber ich sehe auch, wenn man für Utah ist.
What a match as well, even in that trick room, even in those twisted dimensions. Great supportive options, and there is no way that Luke could get to that Calyrex Shadow Rider in the first place. So now you really have to reevaluate. A couple of maybe passive options being brought, and yes, you got the paralysis on the Moongus. Yes, you're trying to set up. You have this Frigorap to stop any priority, get the trick room, but at the same time, we're still looking at a game of you need to outdamage your opponent at some points, and we really weren't seeing that there.
And we got into the latter stages of that game, and you quite rightly pointed out that the Calyrex is still not taking any damage. Just testament to how useful that Amoonguss is. Yes, it had that one turn where it was fully paralyzed, but kind of fortunate that you've got around that because the Entei also was protecting that turn just to kind of get through those trick room turns. So really fortunate that nothing really came of that there, because that could have been quite punishing if you'd seen a Sacred Fire and maybe a Psychic Noise into that Amoonguss that turn to remove it a little bit earlier on in this match.
And the Entei, when you're looking at this Pokemon that could be dealing so much damage, not really the opportunity to do much once it finally did hit the field.
Mal schauen, wie es gleich aussieht. Letztes Jahr hatten die 3 von 3. Ich glaube, TCG hatten auch nur einen Japan-Sieg, oder? Ich glaube, nur Juniors wurde von Japan gewonnen. Obwohl in allen, also in allen TCG und VGC Finals war ein Japaner. Sie haben die schon 3 verloren und 1 gewonnen.
The one thing is to go for the Triathlization maybe and get that Entei out a bit earlier, because if you can get it out a bit earlier and prevent
Aber nur TCG Junior haben die gewonnen.
The nasty plot, that's the half the battle, right? Because it's +2. Even with those Psychics, it's going to be hitting very hard, even if you go for that normal Terrestrialization. So you've got to try and put the pressure on early on. Maybe utilizing something like your own Urshifu. It's very difficult to kind of weave into the
Aber trotzdem krank, was sie für eine Dominanz hinlegen.
But it would be very useful,
Japan.
especially if you do see maybe that Calyrex go for the nasty plot, and you need that
und Unite hat
additional
Japan
damage
gewonnen.
to kind of hit it to knock it out, because you've got that security of the focus sash here, which can be quite useful in those situations. Outside of that, you've got to make sure that you have that electric terrain up throughout. If the Mungus is going to be something that Ray is really concentrating on, leaning on to help support that Calyrex. And the big thing is here, do we see maybe a little bit of a change up from our trainers? Do we maybe see the Rillaboom come out this time around from Ray's side of the field? Because that would be the thing that allows that Amoonguss a little bit more freedom to pressure things on the other side of the field and not be the only thing that can just say, I'm just going to redirect and maybe protect here.
Ich glaube, wir sind vom Timing her echt ganz gut dabei. Aber irgendwie habe ich so ein Gefühl, dass alle 3 Finals Best of 3 werden.
But that extra security could be that difference between world champion or not. It's going to be on Luke to respond, though.
Hast du ausgeführt, Richard, ne? Irgendwie fühlst du an.
Don't let Ray have all the fun here as we hop right back into the match. Game
Okay,
number 2.
let's go.
Ich
glaube, Luke ist fertig mit dem Download.
Yeah, the electric chain coming out, we've already talked about it. It is going to give you that alleviation against the Spore threat from the
was
Amoonguss, but
geht?
it is still a threat at the end of the day because it is going to be able to redirect. It frees up the Calyrex to go for that nasty plot here.
Ja, und trotzdem noch fast wie bei dem Finale oder Top 4. Mittlerweile holen andere Nationen schon auf. Habe ich das Gefühl, safe. Aber die können teils das Spiel lesen, was die anderen nicht so verstehen, ja. Da will sich kein 2-0-Klatsch passieren. Ich bin auch froh, dass vorher der aus Chile gewonnen hat, weil es noch was anderes ist. Ey, auch erster Win für Chile. Sehr geil. Straight up switch zu Entei. Die Ray wieder für Double Protect. Luke für Trick-Home gegangen.
On Ray's side of the field. The Psychic Noise, null and void. And now, how will Ray react to the Entei?
Yeah, and it's a nice patient play here from Ray again, just probably wanting to scout out what that Miraidon locked into and then adjust next turn going in after that decision's been made. But Luke making a really nice play here, not locking into the Volt Switch because knowing maybe the Protect is coming out from both these Pokemon, hard switching into the Entei, and now it's in a position where it's going to be able to have that clear immunity from the Acid Barrage because of the normal typing and then start to pressure that Amoonguss. It has just protected. Now if you are Ray, do you have something in the back that you could switch in from the Amoonguss? And if you are going down that route, it does leave the Calyrex a little bit vulnerable in that situation where if a foul play comes out and you don't have that Rage Powder support, you're going to be taking heavy damage.
Yeah, Ray definitely has a couple of Pokemon that would be able to take a Sacred Fire better, but no swap and helping hand. This Entei, this could be a lot of damage, and we'll be going straight into the Amoonguss.
Sacred Fire.
We'll be taking the full force of this
Sacred
hit.
Fire.
Calyrex wants to make sure once we get past this turn,
ich glaube, es ist ein Sacred Fire hier an der Stelle.
special offense to really be able to hit on that go button. As
Banger.
Sacred Fire, it will connect, and Amoonguss
Oh,
will
7
go
pills.
down. Calyrex Shadow Rider losing its partner.
Yeah, and that's a big turn here for Luke, removing that key support option here from Ray's side of the field. But the thing is, it's done its job almost. It's allowed that Calyrex to at least get a nasty plot up. Now sitting on +2 special attack, going to be able to threaten Luke's side of the field. But there is Terrestrialization active on both sides of the field. Now the one Pokemon that you would say from Ray's end is perfect against that Entei is the Urshifu. Is going to come in and it is going to threaten with those Surging Strikes, do super effective damage. Even if it Terrestrializes, you can just lock in with the close combat there. You've got the Unseen Fist ability, so you don't even need to worry about the Protect. You can remove that Pokemon quite happily.
Ist er nicht beendet, er ist Live-Orb. Ich hab der Live-Orb bekommen, ja dann. Protect rein da, Alter. Aber ich glaube, der wird Verlierer jetzt Double targeten.
Yeah, and the one thing you would say is that when he does have access to that Terrestrialization, not using on the Amoonguss here, could go for it onto the Calyrex and get rid of that foul play threat.
Bleibt auf jeden Fall drin. Das ist crazy.
It's going to be the stellar Terrestrialization onto this Urshifu. We're not worried about defensive of all. We are making sure the damage output we have is what we need.
Okay.
Not the only Terrestrialization on this turn, though. Luke, this is time to make sure your Pokemon can make it on through the Dark type for the Burger.
Yeah, it's going to boost that foul play even further, but it is going to be weak now to that close combat. Has Ray kind of scouted that out and maybe covered that slot.
Extreme Speed, foul play wäre so big in Calyrex, wenn es killen würde.
That's going to be breaking the sash, but the importance of the Terrestrialization. Sure, you can be hit by the Barrage, but not by the
psychic, no damage in, but the surging strikes firing off. But how well will the
Das ist krank. Das ist richtig gut. Jetzt Trick Room oder Foul Play, beides rein. Boah, kranke Scheiße. Wenn er killt, ne? Heftiger Play von Luke.
This Calyrex Shadow Rider that was so problematic in the first game of the set is now gone, and 2 Pokemon remaining.
Und der kann nicht fake out.
The Rillaboom coming on out, but Luke in so much more of a commanding position the last time around, thanks to this aggression and the Farigiraf that we talked about how little damage it can do, and proving us wrong. Huge terrestrialization.
Yes, so surprising and a really great one because you do expect it onto that Entei. You think, okay, get the immunity from that Astral Barrage, but no, Luke pulling the Master Stroke there and really catching Ray off guard.
Grim's alles so gut, weil er activaten kann gleich.
The Grim's not going to enter the field and really give a little bit more alleviation because there is that threat now from that Stellar Terrestrialized on Ray's side.
The surging strikes though less damage.
Dann geht er rein in Entei.
Already used up the boost from that one as Rillaboom is just going to be dealing that last little amount of damage into the Farigiraf to finally drop it down. This point, it has done what it needs to do, and Luke can really bring something out onto the field to support this Grimmsnarl, which in this case can also try and make sure you outspeed and start going for these Thunder Waves.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the Thunder Wave going to be really useful here. The screens, you've got to reflect if you need to, but the big important Pokemon that you want to bring out onto the field right now is going to be that Miraidon, overwriting the terrain, winning that terrain battle, and now you are instantly pressuring that Urshifu. The Rillaboom can resist, and it does have the Assault Vest, so we'll be able to take those attacks a little bit better, but not considering it. Locked in cancellation, tied up. We are going to a Game 3.
What a change of pace coming out from Luke in this
Kommt drauf an, ob er Adamant ist oder nicht.
And really pressing on the pedal.
Ich kenne die Stats von ihm nicht. Entei hat 100, Sport 97, aber Entei könnte Adamant sein. Ich gehe kurz schnell Pinkel checken, bevor das nächste Game losgeht.
Was absolutely fantastic, and being able to catch off on that turn, the survival past that Psychic thanks to that immunity and fire off with a boosted foul play was absolutely everything.
Yeah, the Sacred Fire here, as you're seeing, getting rid of that Immungus like early on in this match was really key. You thought things didn't look too good though when the Urshifu came in. It went for that Stellar Terrestrialization and it was really threatening that Entei. But the surprise there, the support Pokemon all the way through, they've just been chipping things down. Was the one to terrestrialize, getting rid, surprise KO onto that Calyrex. Maybe Ray got a little bit complacent in that little part of the match.
I mean, that's not going to be a mistake that's made again. No. That is absolutely for sure. An adjustment being made, but just a little late at that point. Everyone gathered up here now. We got a Game 3 for everyone here for our Senior Championship Final. And so back and forth between the sets. I don't know which way this is going to go.
Yeah, so it's really tough to call because you look at Ray's side, if he gets that Calyrex, I think you want more utility out of the Amoonguss because I think the one thing that you would say the difference between Game 1 and Game 2 was the Amoonguss was able to support for a lot longer where it kind of got taken down really quickly without really much return in that second game, and that was the key. That's what Luke really needs to do. I think getting rid of that Amoonguss, getting rid of the Urshifu as soon as possible allows the Entei and then the Miraidon to kind of really have that big impactful force on his side of the field, but also at the same time you can't get carried away. You've got to keep that Calyrex in check. You've got a perfect Pokemon to do that though with the Farigiraf, you know?
Okay.
It comes onto the field, it gets that electricity boost, so when those physical threats like the Urshifu come in later on, it's not really so worried about them, especially with the Rillaboom as well. They're the two physical threats at the end of that game too, but that Psychic Seed really helping out, just let it have that longevity a little bit more that we might sometimes forget about because it's activated so early on, and Luke keeps it on the field that entire time.
For these trainers, one about to make history, one match away from becoming the world champion here in Honolulu in the seniors division. For Ray, a testament to the skill in the Scarlet and Violet era, and for Luke, the final way to be ending off his time in seniors. Let's make some noise and get into Game 3 here. Adjustments, Calyrex next to the Urshifu, Farigiraf, Miraidon, yet again for Luke.
Yeah, nice adjustment here. Again, going from that Amoonguss into the Urshifu here. You've got that immediate damage. If you are the Calyrex, if you are the Urshifu and raise that the field, you maybe protect that Calyrex here, maybe protect the Urshifu here, scout out what the Miraidon's going to do again, or do you try and play into that, maybe expecting Luke to expect that from your side of the field, switch that Miraidon out, maybe go after that Ferrograph because of how threatening it was in that second game. Remove that from the field, you remove the Armor Tail, you kind of free up some of your more options where you've got access to those priority attacks as well. You don't need to worry about the Trick Room either, so your Calyrex can breathe a little sigh of relief when that Pokemon is gone down.
Nee, Amoonguss war im Lied.
Every match so far, we have seen the double protect on this first turn, but Ray is going to go on the offensive. Astral Barrage, nothing into the Ferrograph, but a lot of damage into the Miraidon. The follow-up, but it's going to be a Draco Meteor miss into the Calyrex.
Ist das Kacke.
Everything, but instead,
Oh mein Gott. Stell dir vor, du bist bei den Weltmeisterschaften im Finale und misst deinen Draco Meteor. Kranke Scheiße. Kranke Scheiße. Boah.
The bounce back you have to have from that. Losing the restricted on the first turn. You can't come back from that.
Aber wie gechillt Luke bleibt, ne?
There's possibilities, but absolutely devastating. This is going to be an uphill battle from this point on. In the Calyrex,
aber wie gechillt Luke bleibt.
Whatsoever. So even if the Entei does target into the Urshifu here to take it down, the Calyrex will be able to respond.
Yeah, we'll be able to respond, and it probably in that position now where it could go for a nasty plot here, maybe even go for a terrestrialization here because it's still available on the race side of the field. One thing you could say Luke has got an advantage of here, can terrestrialize that.
Hallo Marco.
Go for that extreme speed, get rid of the Urshifu.
Boah, E-Speed in Urshifu.
Then you can start concentrating on that
Terra-Farigiraf, V-Play and Calyrex ist halt der obvious play.
You still have to worry about that Psychic. You've got the Ferrograph there that can help with speed control.
Aber der könnte so viel wieder zurückholen. Oh mein Gott. Oh mein Gott, Chat, haltet mich. Oh mein Gott, Chat, haltet mich. Das ist Seniors Final, letztes Game. Dann kommt direkt Masters Final.
And what it was able to do to the Calyrex Shadow Rider, can it do what the Miraidon could? Not extreme speed. Urshifu goes down. Is there going to be the follow-up from this Ferrograph for a double
kriegt noch mal Strawberry raus. Das würde richtig scheppern bestimmt.
Ist okay. Into this Entei instead. A lot of damage, but not enough. This is going to be the moment, Mo, for Luke to see if he can come back into this match, and it will be that foul play. Took the KO last time around, and it will again. Calyrex, one hit KO.
Seeing the Draco Meteor miss that turn one, deciding I'm not going to settle on that. I'm bringing my Entei onto the field. I'm going to use that extreme speed. I'm going to get rid of the threat in the Urshifu and go once again for that successful terrestrialization on the Ferrograph. Take advantage of that boosted foul play and get rid of the restricted on the
Der kann Amoonguss straight up Sacred feiern. Raging Bolt wird halt... Ne, der kann nicht Dings. Der kann Amoonguss straight up Sacred feiern. Aber der hat auch noch Terra. Raging Bolt kann nicht Sturmblitz drücken.
The Raging Bolt, since it's been introduced in the format, has definitely been a force to be reckoned with, and this one does have the potential for that damage with that light.
Helping Hand Sacred Fire. Ich weiß nicht, hatte Amoonguss Protect gar nicht? Hast du Team gerade offen?
So it has to go slow but steady to take these KOs.
Noch kein Sturmblitz wegen Farigiraf. Hey, schnell ein bisschen Sacred Fire, sagen es nicht. Hat er nicht? Ja, hat. Na gut, 50-50. Doch, okay. Amoonguss muss eigentlich protecten. Oh, okay. Wir fallen gerade Luke an.
Amoonguss as well, not wanting to take attack from this potential Entei. So it's going to be the other two to act on this turn as Raging Bolt targets into the Ferrograph.
Okay,
schön. Be hanging on this turn though. Not going to be false, but Psychic Noise targeted into protected mushroom.
Der kann jetzt Amoonguss killen. Der kann jetzt Amoonguss killen. Der muss für Double Protect auf Amoonguss gehen. Ja, schon raus, ja. Danach kommt Master Aiden, ja.
To try and draw in some of those big threatening attacks from Entei on Luke's side of the field.
Notable, there is still
Okay,
terrestrialization
Terra Amoonguss,
so when the moment counts the most,
Ja, kills Helping Hand Sacred Fire.
Ich glaube nicht. Wanting to make sure that this Amoonguss can stick around as long as possible into that fairy type. Trying to make sure if a Sacred Fire comes out, it's going to be helping out, but Helping Hand. Can we get the damage here? Rage Powder, the Amoonguss is... You got the damage with the Raging Bolt. You need to keep this Pokemon safe. But is this going to be enough? You drop the weakness and you're going to take this hit.
Okay, schon mal nicht schlecht. Schon mal nicht schlecht.
It does survive though. That's all Ray needs to do for this one turn because maybe that is enough to remove the NZ from the field and the Thunder build come out. A Thunderbolt enough to take that down, not into the Frigoraph, so that gets to stick around for a little bit longer.
All right, we got these two Pokemon that burn
jetzt auf dem
little
Timer.
mushroom on a little bit of borrowed time as we get into the ending of this game number 1.
Okay, Grimmsnarl. Was hat Grimmsnarl für... Hat er einen Fee-Move, Yannick? Hat er Spirit Break?
Yeah, the Amoonguss now in a good position to just go for another one of those Rage Powders. Can the Raging Bolt get rid of this Farigiraf on Luke's side of the field? And then it becomes pretty much a one-on-one situation.
Okay.
You've got the more offensive power on Ray's side. So it's all
Der will
for
jetzt
Luke to
Amoonguss
do
killen
here.
mit
Rage
Grimmsnarl.
Powder coming out
Ganz
as
Lightscreen,
a light
klar.
screen is set up.
Trying to make sure that you can out-damage your opponent, not take too much as Thunderbolt into the Vergraph, more than enough to bring Luke down to final Pokemon. And with the sportive one, and the only move of choice being this foul play, does Luke have enough to close this out?
Killt Flowplay Amoonguss? Ja, oder? Muss. Wenn nicht, ist Feierabend.
Really impactful here, but the big thing is the electric terrain has now disappeared, so that Grimmsnarl going to be susceptible to those spores. If the Amoonguss can get one of those off, maybe you take a chance to just protect the Raging Bolt one turn.
Es steht und fällt mit dem Kill auf Amoonguss.
Utilize the Amoonguss, go for the spore, but we're not going to have it.
Instead, the forfeit's locked in, and
Dann
with
doch nicht. Ach, die danke für Resub.
Yamanaka is going to be your Pokemon World Champion here in the Seniors Division. A thrilling back and forth.
Also einen Crit hätte Amoonguss ja immer gekillt.
Being able to close it out first
Okay, ja, wollte wohl nicht gewinnen, alles gut. Nee, alles gut. Nee, ich hasse es auch, Weltmeister zu werden.
What an accomplishment.
Absolutely incredible from Ray from start to finish.
Aber kurz nach die
It was
Dankeschön.
a testament to his play throughout. It looked a little bit dicey after that game too, but he was able to kind of overcome that,
gewinnt er aber
come
nicht.
through it, and
Boah,
in the
sicher?
end, really
Livestream war draußen und Raging Bolt bekommt noch Live-Hop-Damage.
utilizing the tools they had available, like that Raging Bolt in the end game.
Würde ich nicht safe sagen.
Are you going to bring it to this? Is it going to be that effective? But yes,
Hauptplay macht 22, aber Live-Hop und Lightscreen.
And the Amoonguss so pivotal throughout.
Boah, weiß ich
Massively
nicht.
done. Huge congratulations to Ray and to both of our finalists.
Honestly, that was all we could ask for in a set. There was so back and forth, all the drama on the grills, and we're the world champion. The biggest of congratulations to Ray. And I mean, Ray had spoken about this being a tough tournament through and through, and Luke made him work for it in the finals, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely didn't make it easy at all, and the adjustment in game 2 was so great to see. The surprise translation on the Farigiraf, catching Ray off guard, taking down that Calyrex was such an important turn. The big thing that you would say for Luke was very unfortunate going into that game 3. Pivotal turn with that Draco Meteor miss, because that hit, things might have turned out a little bit differently there.
It's so tough. You have these powerful attacks, but there has to be the drawback somewhere, and Draco Meteor sometimes that is going to be your downfall. And maybe if we had even seen the aggression from the Frigoraph in the opposing slot on the first turn, but that's such a hard call, because at the same time, if you're running these not so accurate moves, you can't just hey, maybe it won't hit, so I got to cover, because you still need to take care of the Urshifu in that spot as well. So that is so tough. Absolutely heartbreaking for Luke. But for Ray to be able to bring this to a 3-game and win in this endgame was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think as well, to talk about how Ray has trained his Pokemon, being able to take that Helping Hand, Sacred Fire, pivotal in that endgame situation where it was enough to be able to protect that Raging Bolt and just enough time to allow it to remove the really key parts of Luke's side of the field and allow him to walk on and become a 2024 Seniors World Champion.
The first game the first set that's gone to 3 here in our bracket, and so worthy. These two were both so deserving, and what a way for this finals to end. Truly speechless. There is so much, yet not enough to say about this. This was just absolutely fantastic. And seeing the adjustments from each game to next as Ray caught a little off guard by the aggression from Luke in game 2, and then game 3 being able to match it to be able to close it out was just wow.
Yeah, it was very well done, and I think that's the thing where Luke was quite comfortable in that situation.
Kein 2-0,
I just need to get my photograph into a position where I'm almost given a false sense of security in a lot of ways, where the photographs, yeah, it's throwing up the psychic noise onto the Amoongus or whatever is next to the Calyrex, but I'm not going to lock in with as far play as you said, and I'm going to maybe choose Helping Hand here and there to try and get that extra damage boost.
Können wir jetzt nicht schlafen gehen, Chat? Jetzt kommt ja der spannendste Part des Abends.
Was able to terastallize that photograph and really capitalize in that moment, just wasn't able to take that into game 3, unfortunately, but more testament to Ray in that situation because really not faltering, kind of sticking to the game plan, utilizing the perfect tools for the job to get over the line with that Calyrex, taking the opportunity when it's presented to go for that nasty plot, get that +2 boost, which is so important. And although you're sitting in front of most of the time a Pokemon that is a normal type, right, that you can't hit with the Astral Barrage, so you think, oh, maybe if the Entei goes for that Terastallization, then I'm not going to be able to hit that either. But then you forget about the Psychic and how devastating that can be, especially when it's up to +3, +4.
I mean, what a set, and I think it's about due time that we get to hear from our new Pokemon World Champion and head on over to the stage to hear from Ray himself.
I'm here with your World Champion, Ray Yamanaka! Congratulations, when you started your journey to Worlds, did you expect that this would be the result?
Ja. Ich hoffe, er sagt ja.
大会に向けていろいろと準備してきたと思うんですけども、まさか世界チャンピオンになれると思いましたか？
全くそんなことは考えていませんでした。とても嬉しいです。
I had no idea that I would be the world champion. I didn't think I'd be able to do that at all, but I'm really happy that I did.
We're so proud of you as well, and you are upholding an amazing tradition of Japanese world champions. How does it feel to be representing Japan as a world champion?
Geil, jemand Coach. Mich hätte ja gesagt, safe. An Einstellung, was geht?
はい、とても本当に嬉しいです。
Yeah, I'm so happy I was able to win as a representative of Japan.
And is there anyone here cheering for you or watching online that you want to say hello or thank you to?
今見てるご家族とか友達とか今応援してくれてる人に挨拶とかメッセージありますか？
ああ、そうだな。
Nee, niemandem.
応援してくれた人たちに感謝しかないし、これからも頑張っていきたいと思います。
I have nothing but gratitude for everyone who supported me on this journey so far, and I will keep doing my best in future as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, sweet.
Thank you so much for an amazing match. Congratulations one more time for your world champion. And that's not all. We have lots more Pokemon coming your way, don't we, casters? Over to you.
Wow, what a phenomenal couple of finals we have had so far here on Championship Sunday, but we still have one more to show you. My name is Rosemary Kelly, and I'm joined by Lou Aktosh Chromie, and we are so excited to bring you the Masters Finals for the video game here at the 2024 Pokemon World Championships.
We only have one more champion left to crown here at the 2024 Pokemon World Championships. It has been an incredible weekend of competition across all the amazing games we have here, but now it is time for the Masters Division on the video game side of things.
And if you've been enjoying the action that we've had here so far, then make sure that you are signed up to get notifications. You can do that by scanning this QR code to get some email updates. Make sure you subscribe and make sure that you are all in the know about what upcoming Pokemon events and live streams and all the good stuff at the Pokemon Center you have coming your way.
You definitely want to stay informed of all of that epic Pokemon action. And speaking of action, the top cut that has gone through for these Masters Division players has been incredible. So let's take a refresher at the top bracket and how things have shaped up for our players. You can see our finalists here, Yuta Ishigaki and Luca Cheribelli, being able to be one step away from the world champion.
What's amazing about this top cut bracket as well is we actually only had one player that had found themselves in a top 8 of a world championships before, and that was Michael Kelshi. Looked so good being able to make it into that semifinals where Yuta Ishigaki surprised I think a lot of people. When you look at the matchup on paper, you think maybe Michael is the one that's going to be able to have the advantage there, but Yuta playing so well through that semifinal to get here. Likewise on the other side though, Luca Cheribelli, amazing player.
Yes, I think both Luca and Yuta were so dominant in their top 4 matches as well, really going on the offensive and just being in command, total control throughout the entire set. As you can see, they were both 2-0 victories as well. There was almost nothing stopping them from getting into this final.
But what stood out about both of them in their play in the semifinals was the fact that they are just so unafraid to make some big plays to try to get that advantage either early on in the game or really turn the tides in their favor. So I think we're in for a good one, Lou, as we get ready to go for the very first game of this final match of the competition. It's just kind of been an amazing journey to get here.
Show ist Top 32 gekommen und dann im Top Cut erste Runde verloren.
Twice, in fact, today being the third World Championship here, and there's so much history being made, so much at stake for these trainers. The player pool was incredible. And now we're down to just 2 final competitors, and being able to see all the victorious successes and the heartbreak along the way does just show the journey that all these players have been through. And even though there are just 2 remaining, we've got to also kind of credit and remember all the players that battled them along the way.
Okay, Chat, ich mach schon mal 10 Minuten Wette an, ihr könnt reingehen.
Because we had 694 Masters Division trainers enter into the competition on the very first day on Friday. And the fact that it's just going to be Luca and Utah.
Wo ist denn der Wolfguy geblieben? Der war doch 18-0 jetzt ausgemacht hat. Und hat danach alles verloren.
And it's also the very first one we've ever had with a single restricted rule set. You've gotten a chance already to see how that has played out for the juniors and the seniors division. But just in case you're tuning in for the first time, it means that we've got one very powerful Pokemon on either side that a lot of these teams have been created around.
And it was a hot topic of discussion, right? You know, which single restricted is going to be the champion at the end of the day. And a lot of people were obviously talking about Shadow Rider Calyrex that we just saw in the seniors division as well. And we're kind of rocking the fit a little bit for that Pokemon choice, but it's not to be for the Masters Division. That restricted Pokemon is either going to be Miraidon or it's going to be the Ice Rider Calyrex.
And both of those
Ich muss leider trotzdem Europa anfeuern, mir ist es egal. Ich glaube, mich juckt es nicht, ob er gegen Gewinner oder Zweiten verliert. Beides sehr starke Spieler.
In terms of the damage output that it can have. With a spread type 100% accurate move, you know that your damage is always going to land. Similarly for Miraidon, this was a Pokemon that has an enormous special attack stat, also a very powerful signature move, even though it is going to be single target, but also how could you not love the purple dragon?
I mean, speaking of signature moves as well, obviously the Electro Drift, so much damage coming down, but as you said, it's single target, so if you want to have those spread type moves, you can look right at the Ice Rider Calyrex, using that Glacial Lance to deal so much destruction on the field. It's really hard to avoid those attacks, obviously, as well, because they are on the more accurate scale, of course, and doubling down into both the opposing Pokemon, if Chilling Neigh boosts get rolling through as well, it makes the Calyrex so formidable to deal with. So it's going to be a clash of the titans between not only the Pokemon, but 2 very esteemed Pokemon trainers as well today.
Even though we kind of expected to see Miraidon and Ice Rider Calyrex both towards the top tables of our competition, I think what's been so unique to watch is just how all of our trainers actually approach how to build around that. For Miraidon teams, in the past couple of weeks, we've really started to notice a trend where Miraidon has been supported by Pokemon like Whimsicott, Farigiraf, but then it's sort of about how do you round out the rest of the team that becomes a bit more predictable. You always want to have sort of that Fire, Water, Grass core if you can, and in this case, we do end up seeing sort of a decision made between what type of fire type you would like to have, but on the other side of things, Utah made such a creative approach to building out an Ice Rider Calyrex team that's going to be so fun to watch.
And I think those Terra types have really come to the forefront as well. Some trainers opting for really offensive Terra types to give an extra boost behind the damage of their moves. But then we've also seen a lovely change in transition to more defensive Terra types as well.
Noch die
Particularly on Pokemon like Miraidon that we've been talking about. The Terra Electric was reigning supreme when we first were able to access this Pokemon. But now coming into the Pokemon World Championships, we're seeing some more defensive plays. Things like the Terra Fairy in action that not only provide some little defensive coverage from those powerful Draco Meteors in the mirror, for example, but also potential Glacial Lances. You're dropping that Dragon type, getting rid of your Ice weakness, and boosting a cheeky Dazzling Gleam as well.
It is such a nice...
Okay, die labern sowieso noch kurz. Es kam ein Trailer raus für Pokémon Trading Card Game Pocket. Wollen wir den gucken oder schauen wir den gleich? Der wird wahrscheinlich on-stream gezeigt werden. Wollen wir noch bis gleich warten? Der kommt eh gleich. Ja, wir warten, glaube ich, besser, ne? Ja, checke.
For example, all those supportive Pokemon are the key components to enabling those restricted Pokemon to shine in their signature roles on the team. Iron Hands definitely is a Pokemon that since we got Miraidon with the Hadron engine in the field, bringing that electric terrain, activating the Quark drive ability of the Iron Hands while allowing it to still look fashionable with its Assault Vest, has really enabled it to come back into the meta.
Nils hat gesagt, sorry, Chat.
And it's on the roster today.
It really has been amazing to see how Iron Hands has slotted itself back into the fray. At the very beginning of Scarlet and Violet, when it first became legal to use in the format, it was everywhere. Oh yeah, it's so bulky. But now that it has a Quark drive and you get a chance to have that attack boost, it can also deal a significant amount of damage to shore up the matchups in a way that maybe the Miraidon can't necessarily do all by itself. But when it's come down to the Ice Rider Calyrex teams that we've seen, you know, what's sort of the evolution there is you look at Ice Rider Calyrex, it's naturally very slow, like Iron Hands, but Ice Rider Calyrex nowadays doesn't necessarily always have to operate in Trick Room to actually be powerful.
Well, sometimes the Pokemon can be slow, but let's pick up the pace here at the Pokemon World Championships. Let's introduce you to our two finalists in the Masters Division.
Bisschen Speed ranziehen, oder? Nach 30 Minuten. Oh, Banger mit dem Track. Das hätte Michi sein können, Mann.
Let's go, we've been waiting all year and we're so ready for this.
Mann, aber Michael de Bestie. Einfach gestern noch einen Trailer geschnitten. War bestimmt der Tontechniker, der musste Überstunden machen.
Let's give them something to remember.
Banger.
Let's get right into your Video Game Masters Championship. Welcome to the stage from Italy, Luca Ceribelli.
Jo, wie sick. Warte, das ist nicht Luca.
And from Japan,
das ist nicht Luca.
Yuta Ishigaki. All right, we just have a few moments before the match, so I just want to know, how confident are you feeling?
Hallo, was ist denn jetzt hier los?
I let the game decide.
All right, that's a good answer too. Let's hear it for your two competitors. Do you want to see them play? I do too. Please take your seats. Casters, let's get right into this match.
Ich glaube, Yuta hätte aber auch gar nicht rauskommen sollen.
Competitors to get ready to go for this World Championships. So exciting because, Lou, we're going to be crowning a new world champion here this weekend for the Masters Division.
I mean, Anna just asked the question. I definitely want to see them play, and it sounds like the crowd does as well. It has been such a journey for these trainers to be able to get through to the world stage, and both of them after that first ever world title for either of them.
Hast du einen? Soll ich
so
einen
much
nennen?
history, so much at stake to be made here.
And there's so much support for them in the audience as well.
Okay,
we actually have a couple of friends and family staying by with Sierra, so let's hear from them
jetzt rein in die
about
Wette
their
hier.
support for these competitors.
Nicht mehr so viel Zeit.
Thank you so much, you two. I am here with friends of our finalists. A few words, so I'm hoping to dive a little bit deeper. I have Arashi Amadi and Hugh Mahara. One question each. I want to know, do you think Luca is ready to become a world champion?
I think so. Like, before the tournament, I knew he was one of the best in the world. I didn't know if he was the best, but like after seeing how he went from 3-2 in day one, like winning 8 games straight against some of the hardest matchup for Miraidon.
Oh, er hätte Rahim stehen können und für Michi sprechen können. Oh mein Gott, das wäre so cool gewesen.
He's the best in the world. Like, if anyone can get it done, it's him.
Danke. Has an opportunity to prove it now. That is for sure. Yeah, let's hear it, guys. We got to make sure we got a lot of noise in here for our finals. But of course, you know, I have to ask the same. But about Yuta, do you think ready to become a world champion?
同じ質問をします。お友達の石垣選手は世界チャンピオンになる準備はできていると思いますか？
はい、本人に話を聞いた感じ、しっかり準備はできてるっぽいんで、みんなで応援して盛り上がっていきましょう。
Moin Dennis, was geht?
Yes, from what I heard from him, he's very prepared, and I hope that we can all support him and tell him to do his best.
I cannot wait to get started with this finals. Let's
Sehr
not waste
so
any more
nice,
time.
nice.
Back on over to our casters.
Da hätte ich als Ralfs Translator stehen können. Nee, wenn Translated Reim für mich.
Words of encouragement for our competitors. There it really is no surprise why both of them are here. We talk about them being prepared and ready to go for this Masters Finals. Let's give you a little bit of insight why we expected to see them here in the first place.
On your left, Yuta
Ishigaki, who came into this event with just so much experience playing the video game, over 10 plus years having actually played this game, and also came in as one of the favorites from the Japan national circuit.
Exactly, so much consistency in recent times, as well as having over a decade of veteran experience that he's going to be able to pull on here and remain composed on the world stage. His opponent,
ich werde nächstes Jahr wieder Berichterstattung für euch machen.
As well. If we just look at his World Championship history back in the 2022 World Championships, he finished top 64. The following Worlds in 23 finished in the top 32, and then has gone even further here in 24 to be at least second place. And who knows, in a matter of minutes, we might find out he's going to get the #1 spot. But also more recently at the Bologna special event in Europe, was able to get second place. So he knows what it takes to get to this point, but he also knows how it feels to get second. He wants to get first.
Absolutely, both of our trainers really looking forward to that world champion title. But Lou, who do you think is going to actually win this championship?
Do you know what? I could have made this decision on an absolute coin flip. It is so close between both these competitors. Yuta has so much offensive pressure with the Pokemon choices on his team. But let's be honest, I got to be rooting for Europe here. Luca Cherubelli, he's going to be the one for me.
I was also on the fence about this one because I think there's so many different things that Luca can do in order to win this match, but right now the onus is on Yuta to really set the pace of this match, to try to throw Luca off his game, and if Yuta can just kind of go for the gold in those first couple of turns, he might just have the game outright.
Plus, I am a lover of Miraidon, so I love to see that here in the final. Definitely one I'm going to be keeping my eye on as one of the newer Pokemon that we've been able to play with in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet as well. So it's nice to see it in its kind of first attempt here on the world stage and see what it can do.
Yeah, but the Ice Rider Calyrex, it has been a little bit underrated as we've taken a look at maybe some of the online tournaments heading into this weekend, as a lot of our trainers tried to prepare for the very best of the tournament. But now I think for Yuta, this has just been such an accomplished Pokemon for him. One thing though that Yuta has not faced yet, despite all of the preparation that he has put into this tournament, he has yet to face a Miraidon. So this is going to be his very first experience in the entire tournament here in the finals.
Isn't that wild that you can go through the whole Pokemon World Championships and this is the first time, I mean, better late than never, I guess, to face down against a Miraidon. And he certainly does have the tools in his team composition to be able to deal with it. But just a little refresher as well of both of these contenders. You can see that they already have a lot of accomplishments on their roster, and as of today, they're going to be able to add one more.
One more, both of them looking for that big finish. Yuta actually though, being able to do so well in these online qualifiers, I think it speaks a little bit to just how you're supposed to be able to play maybe some of these best of ones, those one game sets. It can be very impressive and also very difficult in the moment to figure out maybe what kind of game plan you want to go for, but certain team they can really try to throw people off guard with. When we take a look at Ice Rider Calyrex teams, we really have seen more often than not at the very beginning of the format leaning heavily into that Trick Room mode, but as we started to progress and move towards the World Championships, really has been a bit more about trying to be a little bit faster. But there's no tailwind on this Pelipper.
Exactly, but Yuta does still have a lot of speed options here. You have very speedy Pokemon in the form of the Iron Valley, and particularly when it gets that booster energy activated, as well as the Landros with the Choice Scarf. So you have the two fastest things out of this composition of 12 Pokemon that could be in this battle. You also have the utility to go for Trick Room in the form of Calyrex. So Yuta really does have that in control, and then we'll be forcing Luca to have to adapt to that very early on in turn 0.
And on Luca's side, with this Miraidon, again, a very classic composition around this particular Pokemon. But when you look at maybe how Luca might want to try to approach this game plan versus Yuta, you're really looking at the Miraidon, the Iron Hands, to be able to take advantage of the electric terrain Miraidon is going to set, and potentially this Farigiraf.
That's the thing, it swings and roundabouts of the electric-type Pokemon. Miraidon on the very fast and offensive side. Iron Hands, a little bit more stocky, a little bit more slow and steady. So Luca does have the tools to be able to adjust accordingly to whatever Yuta is throwing down. And you can see here, perfect preparation, staying with the former world champion Arashi Marty, who we heard from earlier, winning back in 2013. Could Luca be winning here for Italy in 2024?
Let's go ahead and find out, everybody, as we jump into the very first game of the Masters Finals of the 2024 Pokemon World Championships. For Luca, you are right away going to see this Miraidon next to this Urshifu. But for Yuta, it is going to be the Pelipper and the Landorus.
This Landorus is in such a commanding position at the moment. You've got the rain on the field, so that not only allows Sansa's Storm to be able to deal 100% accuracy, but Pelipper is also rocking that helping hand. If you can give a boost to the Landorus with sheer force as the ability coming through for something like a Sansa's Storm, that is going to be able to remove the Miraidon from play.
And the Landorus, it sees the perfect target on the other side. This Miraidon with the Terra Fairy is going to be weak to the Sludge Bomb, but it's also being pressured down by those super effective Sanseer Storms. So this could be one way that we actually need to see Luca make one of these split-second decisions. Do you try to Terrasilize down? Do you try to actually try to get yourself off the field with something like a Volt Switch? It's going to come down to this first turn.
Kann Volt Switch into Pelipper und Surging Strikes into Landorus drücken, oder nicht?
A lot of pressure with something like the Surging Strikes, particularly boosted up by the opposing Pelipper's rain, and really kind of provide a way of getting through that opposing Landorus. But let's see how this turn is going to play out.
It does have a Focus Sash, so it's going to be able to withstand one of those hits as well before the Pelipper may be able to follow up. But that's why this Miraidon is going to be forced to have to manually switch off the field. It's going to be the Iron Hands that takes its place, hopefully able to take these hits also. You see the attack boost come through from this Quark Drive as look at that, there is a terrestrialization.
Yes, the Iron Hands joins the field. It is holding that Assault Vest, so it's going to be able to withstand a decent amount of the special attack that the opposing Landorus is able to throw its way, but it is going to go for that defensive Terra type into the Ghost typing here, as well as Pelipper does use its wings to give a helping hand to the Landorus.
This is one way that the Pelipper can bypass some of these speed interactions, just be able to help out as the Sludge Bomb gets tanked here by this Iron Hands.
Lukas am Kochen.
With the Surging Strikes, it's going to be 3 hits, and this Landorus, that's going to be the only thing it gets to do for this game number 1 as it goes down.
Fantastic play by Luca, the one-hit KO,
Starke
removing this threatening
Terrasalisierung
Landorus from play.
Yuta.
I love the way Luca was able to pivot this in here. From Yuta's side, it looks like he was thinking that Miraidon is going to go for the Terra Fairy. So then it's going to be a lot more vulnerable to something like the Sludge Bomb coming through from the Landorus. So a fantastic switch by Luca, not only using that Assault Vest to take the attack, but enabling the Urshifu to come through and get that damage on the board.
It's very tough time for both of our trainers having to think about that, right? Is that Terra going to come through? Are you actually going to see a switch? And so both of them really having to make that quick decision. But where do we go from here, Lou? Because right now, Yuta is going to be down 1 Pokemon and critically down the Terra. It's gone.
That's very true, and it's going to be interesting to see which Pokemon Yuta has in the back. If it is something like that Ice Rider Calyrex, you can start getting into a position where you might be able to set up the Trick Room and gain a little bit more momentum on your field. And we are going to see the Calyrex join the battle here now. This is your big offensive powerhouse. And again, you have the utility with something like the Pelipper to be able to go for a helping hand here, just to be able to boost up some extra damage. Or at the same time, try and deal out some big damage with a Hurricane, because those do hurt, considering it's holding a life ball.
Yeah, but the problem here is that because that Terra is gone, this Calyrex can't even go for defensive Terra with the Terra Grass. Maybe a little bit of good news for it is Luca is going to remove the Urshifu from the field in favor of that Miraidon. So what is going to happen on this next turn as you see the Hadron Engine activate once again, and Calyrex is also going to get out of there.
It's a little bit of a bait here, actually, as Amoonguss joins the field. So we do see this kind of slower mode in the back that was kept for Yuta as the fake out comes through into that Amoonguss. Going to be able to retaliate with a little bit of Rocky Helmet. As Pelipper does go for that Weather Ball, is going to be bringing the Water type attack down into Iron Hands, but not enough to get the knockout. The bulk there really prevailing for Iron Hands.
Not quite enough, but now this Amoonguss is on the field. While it's not going to be able to go for something like the Spore because the Electric Terrain is active, none of these Pokemon will be able to get put to sleep. It does have the opportunity here to go for something like the Pollen Puff or the Clear Smog, just get a little bit of damage down, but it can also go for the Rage Powder if it wants to. That's what we see with this Pelipper switching off the field.
This is what Yuta wants, though. You want to make sure that you have the Calyrex next to the Amoonguss so you can provide that redirection to enable a safe setup with the Trick Room. But it's always a little risky switching in, and at least if the... it's going to be just the Draco Meteor straight out the blocks here into the Amoonguss. That's gone. It does not have the redirectional support anymore.
That's going to be another knockout here for Luca, as Yuta, just like that, is down to his 2 final Pokemon in this first game. The Wild Charge as well is going to have to be taken here by this Ice Rider Calyrex, and on this electric terrain, not only is he going to be able to get a boost from that, but you're also going to see that massive attack added in. The recoil, though, going to eliminate this Iron Hands from this game, but there's still so many more Pokemon that Luca gets to depend on.
I mean, honestly, Luca has played this so well. Losing the Iron Hands is actually a benefit, because you get the option to bring your Urshifu back onto the field, and it still has its Focus Sash intact. 2 more turns of this electric terrain as well for Miraidon to play around. Pelipper also does not want to have to face it. It looks like that's a forfeit coming in from Yuta. Luca's going to take game 1.
what an explosive start to this match as well. First, second turn, very, very difficult decision there for both of our players to make. And Luca was the one that ended up getting it right.
Exactly. I think as well, when you see the Pelipper in play, and we're so used to seeing Pelipper holding the focus sash, but the fact that it was there so vulnerable, you've got the Miraidon that's in the dominant speed tier, just able to apply so much pressure with any electricity it wants to throw its way. Things were looking very dire for Yuta. I have to say, coming into this match, Rosemary, you and I were talking about how turn 0 is going to be critical, and that's where the momentum is going to swing. And that's exactly what we saw happen here. Pelipper going for the helping hand, perfect. If this had been a Terra Fairy Miraidon on the opposing side, this would have been a knockout here for Yuta and would have already gained so much momentum. But Luca not enabling that for him here, instead switching in the Iron Hands and getting the KO on the Landorus instead.
Had it been the Sandseer Storm, you're still doing a critical amount of damage to both Pokemon. And so it's a little bit hard to kind of consider, maybe would that have been a bit more to go for in that first turn, so you know that you can break the focus sash on that Urshifu and also just start to chip away at either the Miraidon or this Iron Hands that switched in.
I think you make a very valid point there, actually, because as you've said, if the Iron Hands comes in, yes, it is still holding that Assault Vest, but it is still not going to appreciate taking a Sandseer Storm, and you know that you have the accuracy as well with Pelipper on the field. So going into this game too, considering that Luca is now just one game away from being the champion, if you are Yuta, you have got to do everything you can to stop him in his tracks. Make sure that if you are bringing those powerful Pokemon like the Landorus, for example, that you're making those turn calls correct.
We did not get a chance to actually see Trick Room get utilized in that first game. I wonder if that is a strategy that Yuta could potentially rely upon in order to get an upper hand in some way. We don't necessarily know how the Iron Hands and the Calyrex Ice Rider would fare against each other, whilst they are both considerably on the lower side of that speed. But one option that you could see Yuta try to rely upon.
I would almost like to see the Calyrex coming out here with the Pelipper. You can provide some support with the Rain here as well as being able to go for something like that Weather Ball, deal some big damage out in the field, and enable Calyrex to get that Trick Room set up. You can also support with very powerful offensive Pokemon like the Landorus to try and get a knockout while Calyrex sets up. And you also have Amoonguss for redirectional support. Lots of options, but let's see what the trainers have gone for.
Well, there's going to be an adjustment here from Luca as we do get a chance to see this Ogerpon, Hearthflame, and the Miraidon. But here for Yuta, it is going to be that Iron Valiant finally making an appearance on this stream next to his Landorus.
Yuta is not slowing down, instead going on the speedy side here. You've got the Iron Valiant on the field with the boost that it's going to get from Quark Drive. Now it's going to be extra speedy, and you have the Choice Scarf on this Landorus. Iron Valiant's going to be the fastest thing on the field.
And that Landorus not too far behind it either. And so now Luca's going to have to figure out what to actually go for here. With this Iron Valiant, it is running Spirit Break, so that is one way that you can start to control a bit of the special attack output from this Miraidon, because you have no way to actually remove the terrain. So it's always going to keep that Hadron Engine boost to its special attack. The other thing that you have, though, is if you really want to, you can consider trying to switch something in or go for coaching. There's a lot of options here for this Iron Valiant to provide in terms of support.
It's going to be tempting to go for the Spirit Break, though, to kind of force the Terrestrialization on the opposing Miraidon. But then Miraidon has that redirectional support with the Ogerpon next to it to be able to provide that redirection. You do see the Terrestrialization come through, though. It has been forced. There is no Dragon type on the field anymore. A pure Fairy type in the form of Miraidon here. Something like a Dazzling Gleam would deal a significant chunk of damage. It's going to be some redirection coming in for the Ogerpon, just going to save it from taking a Spirit Break and luring its special attack.
Well, the Spirit Break into the Ogerpon is going to do just a little bit of damage, is resisted though, and that special attack drop not going to matter on this physically offensive threat. But it is going to be the Slug Bomb follow-up that gets the knockout at the end of the day. But the most important thing is that this Miraidon is going to be alive, and also with full HP to go for the Volt Switch into the Iron Valiant, which is a one-hit knockout.
You remove one big threat from the field here, as well as enabling Luca the opportunity to now adjust and switch up the ball position. The Volt Switch will mean a Pokemon has to come into the fruition, but then because you have had that other partner removed, you can also bring a second Pokemon into play. It's going to be the Iron Hands. We know that Fake Out potential is on the field, as well as once again boosting up that Quark Drive and boosting the attack of the Iron Hands.
Oh boy. We've got two future Paradox Pokemon in this match, but it's going to be Iron Hands that continues to prevail above all right now.
Do you know what I wonder, though, is if Yuta is now going to completely switch things up here. You went with the fast mode front and center. Now you have the utility to bring in something slower from the back. It is that Calyrex Ice Rider, and you have the offensive pressure from something like the Landorus that could go for a lot of damage right now into both these opposing Pokemon. If you've got the Calyrex in play, you can try and get the Trick Room. And if there is indeed something like the Amoonguss in the back as well, that could be a fantastic endgame state for Yuta.
It could be, but there's not really a great way to remove this Miraidon before it can potentially get a decent amount of damage out. You look at the landers with this Sludge Bomb, and it's not necessarily guaranteed to be enough for a knockout in a lot of cases. So if there's any little bit of extra damage that could come through, maybe this Calyrex is able to withstand another attack. It's why this Terra is going to be so important to have preserved for something like this Ice Rider to have a defensive capability.
I almost wonder if the Terra on the Landorus could be good as well, though, because you know Fake Out's in the field with the Iron Hands, you're locked into Sludge Bomb, and you're going to be able to do a significant chunk of damage to the opposing Miraidon here. If you do indeed go for something like the Ghost Terra, then you can avoid being hit by that Fake Out. But the Grass Terrestrialization is also a key component. A lot of decisions here for Yuta.
A lot of decisions and not a whole lot of time to do it, as he is down a game in this set.
Ja, Fake Out den Calyrex. Oh, nee, der meint einfach den.
Rider Calyrex going to take on that Grass Terrestrialization. He's going to have to hope that it can get through and survive some of this damage, and that this Trick Room is going to be the exact environment that it wants to be in. But
hat gemacht, aber geht er mit dem Elektro-Move in?
Calyrex not going to be able to get a chance to move as a Sludge Bomb in return.
Dings oder drückt er Dazzling?
Not enough to knock out this Miraidon, so it's free to go for another Draco Meteor, another one-hit knockout.
Schöne Sache, Harry. Schöne Sache.
No stopping Luca at this point in time. You needed the helping hand to be able to get the KO with that Sludge Bomb. It just wasn't enough without a critical hit to completely deactivate this Miraidon on the field. Fantastic play from Luca here. And you see the Amoonguss coming in as well. The last two remaining Pokemon for Yuta in his bid to become the world champion. Trick Room is not in play. However, Amoonguss can now go for a little bit of redirection. You know that the opposing Miraidon is now locked into that Draco Meteor. It's had its special attack
Low kick in Calyrex könnte geil sein, aber
yeah, and if you are able to actually get this Trick Room set up, then it is going to be an easier way to try to get through this Miraidon. You have the speed in your control, and you will be able to start dishing out some of these glacial lances. As Miraidon does go for a Draco Meteor, though, into the Amoonguss, it's going to do a decent amount of damage.
And no redirection coming through here. Instead, just the natural double target from Luca into the Amoonguss on. The Iron Hand's going to take a little bit of recoil from the Rocky Helmet, but critically, Yuta still has two Pokemon remaining on the field. It did not go for the redirection. It goes for the Pollen Puff, has Calyrex's back, and if Calyrex is going for the Trick Room, it flips the match on its head.
Now the speeds are going to be in control potentially for this Ice Rider Calyrex, but we have to see how it's going to fare against something like this Iron Hands.
Iron Hands is definitely a Pokemon that can be trained to be very, very slow, and in some situations can indeed match that Calyrex in form. So we're going to have to see exactly how these trainers train that Pokemon in terms of speed and who is going to be the faster. Amoonguss really sitting on borrowed time here. There's no other Pokemon to switch out with, so the Regenerator ability is null and void. And because the electric trainers on the field, you cannot go for any spores. If anything, Amoonguss here needs to maybe, I think, only go for the redirection. You've got Clear Smog, but I don't think that's going to do too much. Although into the Miraidon, it might be enough.
Enough, absolutely, but Amoonguss and Trick Room is going to be the first to move. Iron Hands is going to take a very pitiful amount of damage there, and as it goes for the Drain Punch now, it is going to get a little bit of recoil thanks to hitting into the Rocky Helmet.
And it went before the Calyrex as well, so able to get a little bit of damage back. This could be indicative of how they are trained indeed. Of course, Amoonguss does go down, and now Calyrex has the utility to go for that Glacial Lance. Instead, however, it's high horsepower. I mean, that's one way to do it. You get a KO, and you will get the Chilling Neigh boost as well, but Miraidon is yet to move.
It is yet to move, but it is at -4 special attack. So it may be, as long as this is not going to be a critical hit, it is going to just do a little bit of damage at a time. Now that Miraidon is at -6, and the Polygraph is now going to come in as that fourth and final here for Luca.
This is not what you want to see if you are the Calyrex here. Not only is the Electric Sea boosting up the defense on Farigiraf's side, but it is rocking that foul play. And as your attack boost from Chilling Neigh get higher and higher, foul play's potential gets bigger and bigger. Calyrex going for the Glacial Lance, however, this is going to be enough to Miraidon, but Farigiraf, no, it's still here. It's going to have to take another one.
Miraidon, oder?
It's going to have to take another one, and it's going to have to survive another attack coming in from this Farigiraf. And so, as we see the Chilling Neigh boost come up one more time, it's going to be even more detrimental. The foul play goes into the Calyrex. It brings it down so low.
Farigiraf lebt es nicht, oder?
Calyrex hanging on. It is now a 1v1. Calyrex is going to move first. There's a single target down into the Farigiraf.
And that's going to be enough for the knockout. We're going to a game 3 between Yuta and Luca.
Does it get closer?
Haben wir es gesagt, Chat? Alle Games werden best of 3. Wir haben es gesagt.
Pokémon
Aber keins Match.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm not even in my seat, Rosemary. It's that intense. Oh my goodness. Here we go.
Krank.
I cannot believe how down to the wire that went. So much to take away from the last couple of turns of that game. as we ended up seeing the Trick Room get set up, the Iron Hands did move first in Trick Room. What an interesting takeaway from that game.
Trick Room was honestly very interesting here. Not only were the speeds, like you said, with the Iron Hands and the Calyrex interesting, but the key thing for me was that Amoonguss. It was able to hang on 2 hit points remaining. That was the completely pivotal thing. And you can see the celebration there from Yuta, knowing that that was clutch to be able to close out the end game. But also, I love the turn where he set up the Trick Room and did not go for the redirection. Instead, going, okay, Luca, if he goes down into the opposing Calyrex, then it's over anyway. But if he doubles down into this Amoonguss and I allow it to have the Pollen Puff boost, that's exactly what Calyrex needed in the end game as well. So fantastic to see that come into play.
It did. You could see just how much the HP differential got made up there from that Pollen Puff. Absolutely. I mean, there you go. Even just being able to deal that Rocky Helmet chip, you could see Luca was a little bit disappointed not being able to actually get the knockout there. And so as this Iron Hands gets to go for another attack, it has to take that high horsepower, ends up getting knocked out for all of its troubles. But then we finally get into the last couple of moments where it's the Farigiraf with the foul play versus this Ice Rider Calyrex that had those attack boosts from Chilling Neigh.
Honestly, that can be so detrimental. If you get those attack boosts up, we know how much damage Foul Play is capable of. But look at that, 35 hit points remaining. And I would be so interested to go back and do the maths on whether that Pollen Puff was indeed super critical towards the end. Farigiraf goes down, though, the single target, doing that extra bit of damage to push it over the edge, as well as obviously having had the boost just meant that it was going to be a fall for the Giraffe there. But now, Pokemon trainers, it is game 3. 1 game separates these 2 trainers from world champion and runner-up.
Cannot believe this is what it all comes down to. You could feel the energy right now as both of them get locked in and ready to go for this 3rd and final game. We ended up seeing a really good adjustment from both of them as well as we headed into the second one. The Ogerpon Heartflame there for Luca, the Iron Valiant making an appearance there for Yuta, and even though we didn't get a chance to see the Iron Valiant do too much, it did force out a Terra that helped Yuta navigate through that game just a little bit better. But Lou, everybody, let's get ready as Game 3 is upon us here at the 2024 Pokemon World Championships between Yuta, Ishigaki, and Luca Cherrybelly.
The leads are out once again, Miraidon with its best buddy Ogerpon by its side for redirection. And now we have got the Speedy and the Slow. We have got the Iron Valiant and the Calyrex Ice Rider.
Both of them on the field right now, it kind of forces your hand. What sort of mode would you potentially want to go for? And let's not forget that this Iron Valiant has the opportunity to go for coaching that would help to increase the attack stat of this Ice Rider Calyrex right away.
I mean, if you go for the Terra Grass as well on that Calyrex Ice Rider, you're in a difficult spot here. It means you will resist the electric type attacks from the opposing Miraidon. Draco Meteor will be neutral, but you are fearing that opposing Ogerpon. If it wants to go for that Fire type Ivy Cudgel, it is going to be dealing a huge chunk of damage. But whether or not with the coaching, being able to boost up your defense as well, that's going to be able to put you in a survivability spot is yet to be determined. And if there is not a Terrestrialization coming through from that Miraidon, a Glacial Lance is going to hurt like a trap.
It will. So I think it comes down once again to what's going to happen on this very first turn, as we do see the leads on the board. Do also continue to think about Trick Room setup in this moment. I wonder.
Exactly. Trick Room has the capability here, and really, Yuta is in, I think, Luca's head. What's it going to be? Redirection coming through from that Ogerpon, drawing in all of the attack potential. Maybe something like a Spirit Break, but instead, it's going to be that coaching coming through. And as you can see, Calyrex is going to be gained the attack and the defense that is not redirected by the Follow Me.
But the Draco Meteor into that slot, it's not going to help you with that with your special defense. But this Ice Rider Calyrex does hold on as it gets to set up the Trick Room.
Now the speeds are very, very interesting. The Iron Valiant in a little bit of a detrimental position, but you could always use this opportunity to switch something in from the back or let the Iron Valiant go down, be happy for it to be KO'd and allow it to try and go for something in return here. You could always maybe switch it out with something like the Amoonguss, maybe just get some Rocky Helmet damage here, but for me it's about the Calyrex. In this situation, do you actually go for a Protect and allow one turn of Trick Room to allow for a ball position switch from that Iron Valiant, or do you just go for the Glacial Lance?
I think you just have to try to make the most of the attack boost that you've been given, right? You may not necessarily be able to get a big knockout onto this Ogerpon, but also depends on maybe how these are trained, but at the very least you've scared away this Miraidon. It is going to retreat, and instead it is going to be Iron Hands that takes its place. So let's see what happens from here after we see this attack boost for the Iron Hands.
Well, Yuta doesn't necessarily want to see this Iron Hands. We know that it has the potential to be faster in Trick Room against that Calyrex, and with the very low HP remaining, it's got something like a Fake Out, should be able to get the edge on it. The Pelipper joining the field, though, bringing that rain is just going to enable none of these Fire-type attacks to deal as much damage, but Ogerpon playing defensively and going for that Spiky Shield.
Spiky Shield means that you are actually going to have it on the field a little bit longer. It's going to deny a boost, another boost to this Ice Murder Calyrex's attack, but as it's going to be the Iron Hands that has to take its place, it has the Assault Fist. It doesn't necessarily have a way to boost up its defenses, so that's over 50% it's going to take from a single Glacial Lance.
If I'm the Iron Hands now, I've got a decision to make. Do you go for the fake out into the Calyrex, or does the Calyrex protect? And then you want to go for the fake out into the Pelipper, because if you leave the Calyrex unchecked, another Glacial Lance is going to do a huge chunk of damage. But if you leave the Pelipper unchecked, something like the Weather Ball is going to hurt going down into the, or a Hurricane even, into the opposing Ogerpon.
That's why we're going to see the Amoonguss actually end up taking this Pelipper's place instead, and the Calyrex smartly protecting itself so it doesn't have to fear a fake out. Fake out does go into the Amoonguss though, so now that you see that come through, it's going to be a little bit more Rocky Helmet Recoil and the Ivy Cudgel going into the protected Calyrex.
I really like this play by Yuta, sacrificing a turn of Trick Room to switch up the ball position, because now Amoonguss going to be the slowest thing on the field. It can go for something like the Pollen Puff and how that Calyrex regenerate a little bit of HP, particularly with the rain in play. It gives it a little bit more defensive support, or at the same time you can go for that redirection. You know that the Iron Hands only has single target type attacks, so you can draw them in. Obviously the Ogerpon, however, being a grass type, is not going to be affected by that Rage Powder, so it makes things difficult.
It does make it difficult, meaning that if you try to redirect away something like an Ivy Cudgel, or even just a Woodhammer, this Calyrex is already not going to be sitting at a very healthy amount of HP. So as you head into this next turn, we are going to end up seeing a Terrestrialization first, and let's see what it's for.
Nice to see it a little bit later in the game, but it is indeed going to be on the Ogerpon here, dropping its grass type and just becoming a fully fledged fire type in this rain on the field here, trying to maybe use that embody aspect to boost up the attack stat and get rid of this Amoonguss.
Would be nice, but the Amoonguss going for the Rage Powder means it's going to work because it did get rid of that grass typing. So it's going to draw this attention away from this Ogerpon, as it also has to take the low kick. Another little bit of chip damage down to this Iron Hands as the Glacial Lance hits into both of these targets. The Iron Hands is definitely going to go down, and the Ogerpon, now that it has removed that grass typing, it still only takes about half of that damage.
It's still going to be vulnerable though, considering that's another chilling Nay boost that the Calyrex has got. The Ivy Cudgel going to come through in the rain down into this opposing Amoonguss. It's going to be able to hit hard, and it is enough to get the knockout.
Ooh, the knockout even through the rain. That is what you can see from just this embody aspect attack boost, really trying to help out there. It allows Yuta to bring in something else, and this Calyrex in Trick Room is still going to be one of the faster things on the field, but it's going to be the Farigiraf now that's going to take this Iron Hands' place.
This gets very interesting now. You've got the defense boost coming through from the electric seed. You've also got Pelipper, generally on the slower side Pokemon-wise on the field. But whether the Pelipper or the Farigiraf are going to be able to move first could be critical here. Pelipper in a prime position to target down something like a Weather Ball into that Ogerpon and remove it from play. At the same time, Farigiraf doesn't want to have to take another one of these Ivy Glacial Lancers, maybe doubled up from the Pelipper, could be enough to get the KO. You have got the other boost. Ogerpon may go down to another Glacial Lance.
This is the last turn of Trick Room though, so we are going to have to see Yuta try to make the most of it. And while you have all of these boosts intact, even the sliver of HP means that you will be up and ready to go for something like another attack. Now that there is also this Terrestrialization on the Ogerpon, there's no way that Farigiraf can actually Terrestrialize to a water type to try to resist some of this damage. So we see the Ogerpon go for the Spiky Shield here. Very safe play to make sure that it will be one of the fastest things outside of this Trick Room. So when we do see this attack from this Calyrex Ice Rider, it is not going to end up attacking into the Ogerpon there. But critically, we also don't see a helping hand from this Pelipper. But the Farigiraf going for the foul play will get the knockout onto the Calyrex, but what is this Pelipper going to do?
I mean, I don't know if there's too much that it can do here. The foul play removing the restricted here. Pelipper was going for the Weather Ball. It is finding its mark down onto that Farigiraf. Rain boosted, Life Ball boosted. It gets the knockout. But both these trainers now, as Trick Room ends, forced to their last two remaining Pokemon. Pelipper is going to be joined by the Iron Valiant, and it's going to be the Miraidon joining the Ogerpon.
Yes, but now that we end up seeing this board state, we have the Iron Valiant that's going to be coming back in for Yuta, which outside of Trick Room, now that that's expired, is going to be faster
Iron Valiant is schneller,
especially because Miraidon is going to reset the electric terrain as it comes back in.
That's very true, giving a natural Quark Drive boost to this Iron Valiant. And as you said already as well, the Terrestrialization has been used on that Ogerpon, so there's no Terrestrialization that can come
kann eigentlich, also Miraidon killt ja Pelipper trotzdem. Der lebt ja alles von. Und ich glaube, Ogerpon gewinnt ja gegen Iron Valiant das 101.
Spirit Break from the Iron Valiant. That can be exactly what the Miraidon needs in order to get some damage down on the field. You could go for something like a Dazzling Gleam, but there is the potential of a
Lol, Iron
the
Valiant ist so
opposing side. So I
langsam.
think you've got to lock in something
Jonas.
that's going to be boosted by
Ja,
the
natürlich ist
Electro
Iron
Drift, maybe
Valiant
the
der einfach
Electro Drift.
Pilipper.
I think it's time to see it.
I think it might be time to see it as well. We saw how much the volt switch from the Miraidon did into the Iron Valiant before,
Weil der war
so
ja
we
eben
know
nämlich schon
that an
schneller.
Electric Drift
Da
would
gibt doch
certainly
Sinn,
be
was ich
able to
gesagt
get the
habe. Der
knockout as
Coaching
well.
vor
You
Miraidon
still
eingesetzt.
haven't used Terra
Vom
though,
Miraidon-Move.
and there is a very good defensive Terra, but you take a look at this Pelipper being able to terrestrialize to the grass type.
Der hat ja noch eine Terra.
So it's going to be completely vulnerable to any electric type attacks that are coming its
hat
way.
die so
So I
Terra?
think as you have got the terrestrialization in your back pocket, Yuta needs to unveil it now, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing, Rose.
It's going to be a terrestrialization into
Pelipper.
potentially one of the final turns of this
Was hat der?
Masters Finals.
Aber der liebt kein
Pelipper
Draco.
going to take that grass typing.
Der kann doch
Great
immer
way to be able
Draco
to
und
resist these
Pelipper drücken.
electric type attacks from this Miraidon, but you do make yourself a bit vulnerable to this Ogerpon, even if in the rain. Helping hand though into this Iron Valiant. Do we end up seeing a redirection though from this Ogerpon? And yes, we do.
Schön.
It is going to redirect away this attack.
The helping hand boost though is still going to be able to come through. Spirit Break, fastest thing on the field, connects down into the Ogerpon, but not enough to be able to get the
Draco
knockout.
und
Now the
Pelipper.
physical attacker,
Draco und
Ogerpon
Pelipper.
does not mind taking that drop for its part.
Oh, Electro Drift mit Iron Valiant. Hey, das ist es.
The Electro Drift into this Iron Valiant is going to be enough to secure the knockout here. You see the headset come off and Yuta knows
kommt nicht
this
mal
might
Miraidon
just be
vorbei.
all she
Kommt nicht mal
wrote.
Miraidon
This
vorbei.
Pelipper,
Miraidon gewinnt
this
mit
last
Electro Drift.
bastion of hope here for Yuta to
Das ist
try to
Feierabend.
get through this game, but the rain has stopped. The
Iron
protection is
Valiant
gone
ist
here
doch eine
for this
Lusche.
grass type Pelipper. And as we see the forfeit locked in, we got to see Luca Cervelli become your 2024 Pokemon World Champion.
Italy does it again.
Oh, Yuta wollte ihm die Hand geben, aber Luca ist erst auf seinen zweiten Feier gegangen. Aber check man.
Champion. The flames are ablaze, the engines engaged, the drive and determination to win was detected for Luca Cervelli. An encore of applause is completely deserving for our champion and the Pokemon who gave him a helping hand to victory.
Amazing stuff. You know, it is so fantastic to see Luca join the ranks of these incredible world champions that we have seen come before him. This is a player that has worked so hard for this moment. In 2023, being able to have one of the best seasons ever. You talk about all those top 16s that he's been able to have, the top 8s, getting a second even in Bologna this season, right before we've made it to this World Championships, and he's done it. This is his first major win, and what a one to have.
I'm actually choking up behind the desk a little bit here, Rosemary. That was such a beautiful celebration coming through from Luca. At the end of the European season in Bologna, got second place, so close to #1. And you can see him here going through the crowd, getting back onto center stage after celebrating with his friends, who really were the true play he made along the way, as well as some incredible Pokemon play. And commiserations, we have to say as well, to Yuta Ishigaki. Fantastic play, so much offensive pressure coming through from the Iron Valiant and the Landorus, as well as being so dominant with some interesting speed alterations. But Luca was, I think, constantly in control of the play.
And it's so impressive because of just how many unique adjustments Yuta really did have for this Calyrex Ice Rider team. Very interesting picks that, in theory, should be able to help try to neutralize a little bit of this Miraidon matchup. The Landorus being able to deal that super effective damage, of course, to Terra. You also just have this Iron Valiant that has thrown a spanner in the works for a lot of the players that he's faced already. But
wirklich von allen Masters-Match, alle waren sehr geil.
Like switching in that Iron Hands for that very first game, thinking there's a Sludge Bomb on the other side. I don't have to worry about a Sandseer Storm.
I think you've said it perfectly. He was completely in control. And I think although Yuta had so many key pieces that could apply a lot of pressure to Luca, he stayed composed throughout. And actually, it's not just about the Pokemon on the field. Sometimes you have to play the player as well. And I feel like Luca was constantly reading the book that Yuta was writing and was constantly able to adapt. That turn 1 play at the beginning of the set as well, like you said, bringing in the Iron Hands, just meant that the strategy and the pressure that Yuta has was completely neutralized, as well as going through the rest of the set, making sure that those key components were removed so beautifully by Luca.
It was amazing, and as we got a chance to see from Luca yesterday, it's just been so great to see his growth over the course of this tournament. Those top 4 matches, that top 8 match already just so stellar in terms of the play we got a chance to see from him. But let's go ahead and relive some of these moments from this third game. We saw right away this Ice Rider Calyrex didn't necessarily end up getting knocked out to that first Draco Meteor, but Yuta was able to start to kind of mobilize through these trick room turns, potentially win this game.
I think things got very difficult here as well, with the Calyrex applying a lot of pressure, getting those chilling nade boosts as well. But the critical thing, I think, was actually at the very end, that last turn of Trick Room, going for the defensive play with the spiky shield, knowing the Miraidon had been preserved in the back for later with so much damage of Electro Drift. I think, again, timing it perfectly when Electric Train had left the field, being able to reset that with the Hadron engine just meant that Luca was able to have the perfect endgame play. Calyrex going down here as well, unfortunate for Yuta.
Was very unfortunate there, but I think also just Luca being able to play through these trick room turns and preserving this Ogre Pawn was so important, despite the fact that he ended up terrestrializing it to this single fire type and actually removing its capability of being redirected from this Amoonguss. It was still able to withstand so many of these attacks, particularly that Glacial Lance, to know that it could be there by this Miraidon at the very end to remove the biggest threat. That Iron Valiant no longer able to go for something like that super effective Spirit Break, and it was just amazing. If there was going to be one person that could potentially get through this really unique matchup, it was Luca, and congratulations to him.
Wird close.
Let's hear it for your world champion.
Neuburn.
Luca, I know it's very fresh in your mind, but what do you think will stick out as the most memorable moment of your world's match?
I really don't know. I just feel like just the moment that sealed the game, I think that this all I'm thinking about right now. Just the screen saying I won the last game, so I really don't have much chance to say. All the memories are kind of blurry right now, but the most important moment for me was right after, when I was able to celebrate with my friends, which is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it must be overwhelming. We know you have put in so much work. You've had other top finishes and you've been practicing and playing. There are people out here who are thinking, you know what, I want to be like that. What advice would you give them to work hard and end up on this stage like you?
To be honest, this was very unexpected for me as well. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to say what was my preparation there. I just say just have some trust in yourself, something like that. Yeah, just train and like. I can assure you, with the right friends, with the right preparation, with the right support beside you, everything can be possible.
That's great advice. Believe in yourself, practice hard. And there are a lot of people out here who believe in you as well. You said you were celebrating with your friends. Anyone you want to say hello or thank you to right now?
Well, if I'm gonna go name for name, we're gonna be here till tomorrow. So shout out to my friends of Il Server and all the Italian community.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support and congratulations again, Luca, your world champion. Now don't go anywhere. We have some trophies to give out. But for now, back to you, casters.
Der ist gerade Weltmeister geworden.
Such a deserving champion. What a series. The entire day has been nothing short of fantastic. That was so back and forth, Gabby.
It really was, and you could tell that both these trainers were just leaning in on those predictions for that
selbst hier
endgame.
nicht. Ich hoffe, der macht Gaming News. Ich hoffe, der kündigt die News an.
But that was such an amazing game played by Luca and his Miraidon.
Thoughts, guys? Because honestly, I was out in the crowd for that, and everyone just losing it when Luca won.
Yeah, it was just absolutely incredible. So happy for Luca after seeing him kind of progress through this season, the top 8 at UIC, getting so close in the Bologna special event, and then coming into this event and just having an absolute amazing showing, coming into the final against such a hard opponent as well. And at times it looked like he's was against the wall and there wasn't really a way out, but really just staying resolute throughout and just getting over the line in such a dominating fashion.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we got a game 3, right? That's, I feel like as casters, that's our big wish we're always hoping for, is to get to that pivotal game 3. But between
ich sehe gerade Lukas Tweet, als Day 2 gekommen ist, war Day 2, time to lose round 1 tomorrow and go home.
I think Miraidon was the real big
Scheiße, Richard.
That players got rewarded for, and he got rewarded in the Masters division as well.
not even just the meta call for this weekend, but from the get-go, the second we had Regulation G, trainers were on this Pokemon from the start, electrifying win at the very first regional. It hasn't really slowed up from there. There was definitely good contenders along the way. As Raider almost did vie for the title, and even throughout the different championship matches that we got to see a variety of Stricted really pushed together. I mean, Calyrex Shadow Rider as well had a fantastic showing here.
Krank melden. Richard ist schon auf der Arbeit. Schau den Play Pokémon Tweet an.
There's a lot of opportunities for innovation, and we saw a lot of unique Pokemon picks, such as that Iron Valiant, such as Iron Treads from our juniors match, Joe, to try and capitalize on the fact that Pokemon was going to be one of the more powerful
Our
ones
new queen of VGC.
We've got a couple of quirky Pokemon across the board, because I never expected when we were looking at Regulation G, and Iron Valiant
Regulation Age ist sehr cool, ja.
which is absolutely fantastic, and putting up a really good showing to make a run for the
Oh, hier die Orga von Flash sind so geil, ne?
necessarily expect to, and make it to the finals is nothing short of amazing. But Luca did such a good job in kind of weathering that, and I mean, out on top, and just really good positioning the Iron Valiant with the Spirit Break, especially in that end game. I mean, didn't really get to do too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was just Luca able to kind of pervert.
Kumokep, was geht?
At the very end, when it
News kommt gleich, News kommt gleich. Alles richtig gemacht, Taudi. Ach so, Naja, Luca war ja nicht an Michis Lose schuld.
Kind of look at that run and the opponents that he's had just from that top 8, not to mention everything from the entire weekend.
Yeah, and I do think big credit to, I think Lee pointed out the thematics
Michael. Oh, Michi ist sogar offiziell Dritter geworden.
It really, really was. I mean, I love these photos. I just have to say that from the gate. There's so much personality on it. But I mean, even when we're looking at kind of the trends and kind of like what's thematic and
Doch, Michi hat eine Bronze-Trophäe.
You're always about those fun facts and those stats.
Michi hat jetzt die Silber-Trophäe und die Bronze-Trophäe. Und nächstes Jahr holt er sich die Gold-Trophäe. Und Dritter oder Vierter ist bei Pokémon egal. Du kriegst immer genau dasselbe. Beide kriegen auch die Bronze-Trophäe.
So Amogus is still tied at 3 for the most world championships in the Masters division with Incineroar, Salamence, Thundurus, and Cresselia. But other fun facts: Whimsicott, second world championship here.
Nächstes Jahr Teilnehmer. Und nein, dem fehlt nur noch die goldene Trophäe. Die holt er sich nächstes Jahr.
On Shohei's team and Luca's team there. Urshifu 2 out of 3 years, and now Farigiraf getting some revenge. Maybe Michael Kausch a little proud in the crowd, moving from finalist last year to now world champion.
I mean, Kyle, someone that maybe next year, because these runs back to back have been a saint. But
was, Michael? Hat er gerade gesagt, Mike, hä?
Everyone can take that championship title, but you definitely have a nice chunk of change in your.
Ach, es geht um Farigiraf. Oh mein Gott, ich dachte schon. Oh mein Gott, okay, checke. Dann sollte Michi proud sein.
Hey, you can get some plushies, you can get yourself a nice dinner with your friends after this.
Ja, mit 30.000, wenn ich die gewinnen würde, wäre mein erster Gedanke wirklich mir Plushies zu holen und ins Pokémon Center zu gehen. Ja, doch.
There's so much at the championships, and I know the money, I mean, it's absolutely great, but being able to be a world champion after this weekend, getting that trophy, that's the real prize here.
For sure. And what's some great memories as well. I mean, we've seen this throughout all of the video game championship finalists and champions, with all the family there supporting them, all their friends supporting them. I mean, what a moment for these trainers.
Wow, Bautchen.
It's fantastic. I mean, even Luca was saying, like, this moment of jumping off the stage, I mean,
doch sehr leid
it's fantastic.
It's those moments, isn't it, that you always remember when you think back to those World Championships, when a champion is crowned and they jump into the crowd and you've got all of their friends and family around them and kind of celebrating together. It's just a magical moment, and you know this
Guck mal,
moment
hier oben ist Kanimani. Das liegt für sie, ey. Starter.
It's incredible to see. So happy for him, and obviously everyone that is around him supporting him.
Es wird halt Kanimani, wieder Bouts und Full Coco. Ist halt confirmed, halt, was wir machen. Ja, das Mega Amoroso wird angekündigt. Kostuoso wird Starter.
Definitely one of my favorite moments, if not the top favorite moment. But of course, we want to make sure that we can hear about your favorite moment and share on Shoals what you've thought of this weekend, who you're cheering for, what you enjoyed, and from every facet of the Pokemon World Championships, because we only get to cover a little bit of what's here in Hawaii, but it has been a great weekend overall. There's still a smidge more for today, though, because of course we have our trophy ceremony over on the stage with Anna.
Wow, Championship Sunday really has been something to
Damn, wie voll da ist, holy shit.
You all came to watch the show. None of our trainers went down without a fight. I want to say a special shout out to everyone who played at events this year. Locals, regionals, internationals, and of course at Worlds. You are the reason that we're seeing such high caliber professional play here at Pokemon. So give yourselves a round of applause.
Nee, doch nicht.
Now we have some champions to crown.
Süß.
Please first give warm congratulations to your junior finalist, Tatsuomi Shimanuki!
Oh mein Gott. Gold. Trophäe größer als er. Nächstes Jahr, Chat, den haben wir auf dem Schirm. Tatsuomi holt. Der kann ihn nicht hochgehen. Tatsuomi holt es nächstes Jahr, Chat. Tatsuomi, okay? Merkt's euch. Wir gönnen Kevin trotzdem. Letztes Juniorjahr für Kevin. Der holt sich die Trophäe, man gönnt. Leider kein Fabian. Sniper. Alola Bolona ist ja unendlich schön.
Next up, our video game senior finalist. Let's hear it for Luke Crow.
Quatsch, dass du es nicht versucht hast, Luke, aber der Draco Mist war auch echt Arsch. Ein Fireboy, vor allem es war wieder Kevin, wir haben wieder Kevin gebullied. Achso, du meinst, dass Kevin wieder kleine Kinder gebullied hat? Ja, doch.
Next up, our video game senior champion, Ray Yamanaka.
Trotzdem GZ Ray. Langsamster Mensch der Welt. GZ dafür. Hier ist seine Trophäe für langsamster Mensch der Welt. Michi hat seine schon, ja. Wer ist ein Hot Tag? Ich kenne jemanden, der Alola Bolona nicht mag, wenn man Bolona mag.
Your video game Masters finalist is Yuta Ishigaki.
Trotzdem geht's ja dann Yuta. Ich finde, der ist so ein Grobmotoriker. Der macht so, er haut so diesen Vorhang weg und der stampft so. Aber trotzdem auch geht's ja dann Yuta. Sieht wirklich so sauer aus, ne?
And finally, your video game Masters
GZ an Luca.
champion,
GZ.
Luca Ceribelli.
GZ. Oh mein Gott. GZ. Stark, Luca, stark.
And now one big final round of applause to these top trainers of the Pokémon 2024 World Championship.
Okay, Chat, jetzt gleich kommt Ishihara und gibt den allen nochmal die Hand und dann geht's los. Normalerweise hat Ishihara doch denen immer die Trophäe gegeben, oder nicht? Oh, schön, wir bekommen gleich vielleicht den nächsten Words. Also den Dings, ne? Ihr checkt. Den Trailer wahrscheinlich. Oh mein Gott, Chat, oh mein Gott.
While we reset the stage for closing ceremonies, we're going to stop in the Analyst Lounge one last time to recap the epic journeys from this year's event. Don't go anywhere because closing ceremonies will be starting very soon. And of course, we have some